Chapter 1147. The moment Yun Jian kicked him, Lan Su rolled over on the bed and stood up. He then lit up the candles in the room. Adam, who was in the next room, ran over as well. Adam had come over when he heard the commotion. When he saw the rapist who was curled up into a ball from Yun Jian's kick and could barely breathe, he dashed over to grab the man. Then Adam directly punched the flower thief in the head, knocking him out on the spot. "It's really not peaceful here," Yun Jian said calmly with her arms crossed. At the same time, Yun Jian smirked and said, "He has an accomplice. Let's go out and watch the show." They were just a few rapists and robbers. Did they really think they could take her down? When she was the secret agent slaying God, Yun Jian had been hunted down thousands of times by various top assassins and people on the international rankings. Therefore, she usually did not sleep well at night. As Yun Jian spoke, she had already reached the door of the dilapidated bedroom. Just as she reached the door, she turned sideways and said to Adam, "Bring them out." The same thing happened in Yun Jian and Lan Su's bedroom, Ningxia and Lin Xiaochu's bedroom, Hu Chirui and the other two boys' bedroom, as well as the hotel's owner, his wife, and Eliza's room. This group of robbers was not alone. They were in a group. At this moment, Lin Xiaochu had already been dragged to the entrance by a man whose face couldn't be seen. Lin Xiaochu shook her fair legs as the robber rushed her out of the room. At this moment, Hu Chirui and the rest arrived at the staircase and saw Lin Xiaochu being taken away. "Xiaochu!" Hu Chirui and the other two shouted. Ningxia was lucky because she did not sleep naked like Lin Xiaochu. That was why the man chose Lin Xiaochu instead of her. "Ah! Let go of me! Let go of me!" Just then, another robber rushed out of the room with Eliza in his arms. Eliza's parents chased after her with all their might, shouting, "Don't! Please, let my daughter go! I beg you!" Eliza's parents had just chased after them when they were kicked away by the group of criminals. This group of criminals had clearly planned this. They had captured Lin Xiaochu and Eliza, but they had left behind a few people to stop Eliza's parents and Hu Chirui's trio. Damn it! Hu Chirui and the other two quickly clashed with this group of criminals. Soon, Hu Chirui and the other two were drenched in sweat. They were at a disadvantage. Hu Chirui and the other two were about to lose to these well-prepared criminals. On the other hand, Hu Chirui and the other two were entangled by several criminals. One of the criminals rushed forward and grabbed Ningxia, intending to take him away as well. Swish! Everyone present only heard the sound of a saber flying through the air. In the blink of an eye, the criminal who had wanted to take Ningxia away was struck in the temple by a butterfly knife. He died on the spot, his eyes wide open. Everyone present was shocked by this turn of events, and they were all dumbfounded. Even the remaining criminals at the back were so shocked by this scene that they stopped what they were doing. Bam! Before everyone present could react, they heard the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Everyone saw Adam tossing the rapist who had wanted to attack Yun Jian to the ground by the staircase on the second floor. Unlike the battered and exhausted people around her, Yun Jian was currently hugging her chest with her arms. She looked down at the group of people who had suddenly appeared like an outsider. Then, her red lips curled up slightly. "Here, thank you for your big gift. I'm returning it to you now." After Yun Jian finished speaking to the criminals, she kicked the unconscious rapist and mercilessly kicked him down the railing on the second floor. He fell straight to the ground floor. The rapist's blood splattered everywhere. Chapter 1148. In the blink of an eye, Yun Jian had killed someone. Moreover, she had killed two people at once. Everyone there was stupefied by Yun Jian's horrifying move, their jaws dropping in bewilderment. After all, Yun Jian was only a teenage girl. Especially today, when Huchirue and his group were about to check into the hotel, Lin Xiaochu was showing off Huchirue and his group's abilities to Yunjian. At that time, Yunjian did not dare to refute a single word. At least, that was what Huchirue and his group thought. Yunjian did not dare to refute them at that time. However, until just now, Yunjian had killed 2 people in just a few seconds. Everyone present was horrified by her ruthless methods. How was she afraid? How was this what a teenage girl should be like? Coupled with her exquisite throwing knife skills, she was basically a demon. She was the Grim Reaper from hell. You. One of the criminals could not hold it in any longer. He screamed in fright on the spot. It was very obvious that this group of criminals had their eyes on Yunjian and Huchirue's group for a long time. Today, they even wanted to snatch the hotel owner's daughter, Eliza, away. After all, Eliza was pretty, and was indeed the ideal target in the hearts of men. However, based on the original plan today, this group of criminals had even planned who would be the easiest to target and who would be the hardest to target. In the end, they came to the conclusion that Yunjian was the easiest to target. Because she was the youngest, and her appearance was not the mature type. At most, she could only be considered delicate and pretty. However, there was no doubt that Yunjian's appearance was the most outstanding among the group of women. Although she did not have the enchanting charm that men liked, she had a delicate and pretty face, as well as an exquisite figure. In addition, Yunjian's figure was big in the areas that should be big, and small in the areas that should be small. She was simply the person that this group of criminals was fighting to get their hands on. Moreover, from the looks of it, she was the easiest to target. However, this group of criminals never expected that Yunjian, who seemed the easiest to target, would turn out to be a homicidal maniac. She had killed 2 people in just a few seconds. Huchirue and the others were completely dumbfounded. At this moment, one of the criminals who had witnessed Yunjian's knife-throwing skills, who was obviously the leader, immediately pulled out a shiny pistol from his belt. Ah! Gun! Seeing the leader of the criminals pull out a pistol, the hotel couple turned pale with fright. In Country A, handguns were prohibited. It was obvious that this handgun had been brought in illegally. Moreover, the ruler of Country A didn't care about anything at all. Therefore, it was understandable that the criminal had a gun. Huchirue and the others were just university students. They used to be ordinary students. How could they have seen something like a real pistol? Therefore, when they saw the leader of the criminals take out a pistol, they were so scared that they stopped moving. Women, step forward. Otherwise, I will kill all of you here. The gangster thought that he had threatened everyone present, including Yunjian, so he spoke arrogantly. Not only did the criminal speak in Country A's language, he even spoke in Mandarin. It seemed that this criminal could speak Mandarin. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She still stood in the distance with her arms crossed. She spoke to the criminals in Mandarin that Huchirue and the others could understand. I'll return the same sentence to you. Today, none of you will leave here alive. It had been a long time since she killed someone so freely. In Country Z, there were laws. In a country like Country A, even if she killed someone, no one would know. After Yunjian finished speaking, she walked down the stairs step by step with ease. The criminal holding the gun was frightened by Yunjian's aura. Just when the criminal wanted to do something, he saw Yunjian move. Chapter 1149. They saw Yunjian slowly walking down the stairs, the corners of her mouth slightly raised. From her expression, it was as if she was really an innocent young girl. The criminals below couldn't help but stare blankly, completely stunned by Yunjian's seemingly innocent expression. However, they thought in their hearts, such a beautiful little girl, was she really the devil who killed without batting an eyelid? She had just kicked the unconscious flower thief down from the second floor. A person who was asleep was kicked down from a high place. If he wasn't asleep and was kicked down from the first floor, he might not die. However, with Yun Jian's actions, the flower thief would definitely die. Just as the people present were thinking this, they saw that Yun Jian had already reached the middle of the stairs. Her expression suddenly changed, and the curve on her face disappeared. In the next second, everyone saw an unforgettable and frightening scene. Yun Jian stood in the middle of the stairs. Before she reached the bottom, her legs suddenly kicked, and her entire body jumped up. She jumped over 10 meters. And this 10 meters was just enough for her to use the height of the stairs to jump in front of the criminals. Before Yun Jian's body landed, the gun-wielding criminal reacted. He raised his gun, his hand on the trigger, and wanted to shoot at Yun Jian, who jumped down from the air. "Be careful." The surrounding people all broke out in cold sweat for Yun Jian. Ning Xia, on the other hand, immediately shouted out nervously. Ning Xia's impression of Yun Jian wasn't bad. If it wasn't for Lin Xiaochu, perhaps Ning Xia would have already become friends with Yun Jian. Hu Qirui's heart also tightened, but he glanced at Adam and Lan Su, who were with Yun Jian. Why didn't the two of them look worried at all? Could it be that they weren't worried for their friend? That criminal had a gun in his hand. Even if Yun Jian grew wings, she still wouldn't be a match for him, right? Just as he was thinking this, Yun Jian had already jumped up to the criminal. The criminal was scared. When he thought of how Yun Jian killed two of his companions without batting an eyelid, his heart trembled. Die! Little girl, you forced me to do this. Before the criminal made his move, he let out a low growl. Then, he pulled the trigger and pressed it down. However, just a second before the criminal pressed down on the trigger, Yun Jian jumped in front of the criminal. She stretched out her slender front leg, and suddenly kicked the criminal's wrist that was holding the trigger. There was nothing surprising about this kick. But what was frightening was that Yun Jian's kick, she broke the criminal's entire wrist. Even from where they stood, everyone could hear the loud cracking sounds coming from the gangster's wrist. The criminal's wrist was bent. His hand that was originally holding the gun toward Yun Jian was kicked away by Yun Jian at this moment. He was holding the gun stiffly. His hand was straight, but his whole palm was bent, facing himself. The criminal was kicked by Yun Jian, and the hand holding the gun hit himself in the heart. At this moment, the criminal had already pressed the trigger, and he couldn't stop in time. Bang! The gun went up and down. The criminal fired the gun, hit himself in the fatal point, and fell to the ground on the spot. Before he died, he let out a frightened sigh. This is impossible. There was actually such a little girl in the world who could break his wrist in the fastest speed and make him kill himself. Her speed was even faster than a gun. However, the criminal had already fallen to the ground after saying the last word. Before the criminal fell to the ground, Yun Jian caught the gun that he let go and sneered. So weak. Chapter 1150. When the surrounding criminals saw that Yun Jian had killed the criminal holding the gun, they all retreated, as if they were planning to retreat. At this moment, the two criminals who had caught Lin Xiaochu and Eliza first had already left with the other criminals at the door when they heard that something was wrong. After Lin Xiaochu and Eliza were taken away by the criminals, they had planned to wait for the criminals in the house to succeed before leaving together. However, when they saw that 3 criminals had died in the house, the criminals saw that the situation was not good and retreated first. Meanwhile, Lin Xiaochu and Eliza had their mouths covered and their mouths grabbed by the criminals. When the two of them saw the terrifying scene just now, they could not even make a sound. Especially Lin Xiaochu. Her mouth was covered by a criminal with hair on his hands, and she almost vomited in disgust. However, she still saw Yun Jian's shocking methods just now. That ruthlessness. Lin Xiaochu had always been proud that she, Hu Chirue, and the others were members of the university's taekwondo club. Therefore, she was not afraid of being robbed on this trip at all. Firstly, it was because they knew taekwondo. Lin Xiaochu believed that she was not weak, and Hu Chirue's taekwondo level had already reached Black Dan 3. Secondly, it was purely because Lin Xiaochu thought that no matter how chaotic this place was, it was impossible for criminals to appear. However, not only did Lin Xiaochu miscalculate, she even thought that Yun Jian was just a little girl who did not know any skills. However, the methods that Yun Jian had just displayed, it made Lin Xiaochu extremely terrified. The way she killed people, it was as if she had just done a very ordinary thing. Was this still the skill that a teenage girl should have? While Lin Xiaochu was shocked, everyone standing in the house could not close their mouths anymore. Especially Hu Chirue and the others. He originally thought that Yun Jian would dodge the bullet, or try to grab the gun that had been holding the criminal's gun. However, who would have thought that she would break the criminal's wrist with one kick, causing the criminal to end his own life with his own bullet? Xiaochu, let go of Xiaochu. By the time they came back to their senses, the group of criminals had already started to retreat. Meanwhile, the criminals outside had already captured Lin Xiaochu and Eliza and placed them in a van. The van also started at the same time. After seeing Yun Jian's skill just now, the few criminals who stayed behind all wanted to retreat quickly to the gate. They didn't want to die. This little girl was too scary. She was simply inhuman. However, in the next second, Yun Jian's hellish voice came from behind. She blurted out, "I told you, don't even think about leaving this place alive." Yun Jian's voice was accompanied by a series of gunshots that sounded like machine guns. Bang 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 bang. There were still 5 criminals left in the room. Yun Jian used the pistol she had just snatched to kill them in a matter of seconds. They didn't even have time to react. Yun Jian fired these 5 shots without even looking. However, every shot hit a criminal's temple. Perhaps it was because Yun Jian's actions were too shocking, Hu Chirue and the others in the room were stunned again. He was so shocked by Yun Jian's pistol skills that he couldn't extricate himself. However, at this moment, the van outside the house had already driven away as fast as it could. Yun Jian lowered her eyes. She turned around, and the pistol slid down her hand to the ground. She walked upstairs and even stretched out her hand to yawn. "Adam, take care of the scene," Yun Jian said and was about to go upstairs. It was obvious that she didn't want to care about what happened next. Among Hu Chirue's group of 4, one of them was the shortest and ugliest of the 3 boys. He panicked when he saw Yun Jian walking upstairs. Chapter 1151. The shortest and ugliest boy among the 3 saw Yun Jian heading to the 2nd floor, so he immediately rushed to the stairs to block Yun Jian's way. This boy's name was Duan Tianyu. He liked Lin Xiaochu, which was why he was so anxious when he saw Lin Xiaochu being taken away. Although the boy liked Lin Xiaochu, he knew that he wasn't capable enough. In addition, he saw Yun Jian's skills just now, so he ran up to block Yun Jian. "Tianyu, this matter has nothing to do with her. It's already very good of her to deal with the criminals in the house for us. We'll go save Xiaochu ourselves." Hu Chirue frowned. Although he didn't know how to save Lin Xiaochu and Eliza, he didn't even know where the criminals had taken them. However, Hu Chirue could tell that Yun Jian didn't want to care about this matter anymore. After all, to Yun Jian, they were just passers-by on her journey. They were just fellow villagers from the same country. There was no need for her to take risks for them. This was normal. Although Hu Chirue didn't like Lin Xiaochu came with them. Of course, he couldn't just leave after Lin Xiaochu was taken away and her whereabouts were unknown. They definitely had to save her. Hu Chirui, are you crazy? Didn't you see how powerful those criminals were? They even had guns on them. If we go save her ourselves, aren't you asking us to jump into a fire pit? Although Duan Tianyu liked Lin Xiaochu, he cherished his own life more. Therefore, he yelled at Hu Chirui. After yelling, Duan Tianyu turned around to look at Yun Jian. You killed so many criminals just now. Since you have the ability, why don't you go save her? Duan Tianyu said this as if it was only natural. After hearing Duan Tianyu's words, Yun Jian's lips curved into a smile. It was a mocking smile. After laughing, Yun Jian stopped smiling and asked in return, I do have the ability to save her, but why should I? This matter had nothing to do with her. Yun Jian was not a good person. Even Eliza, who she got along well with, had been taken away. She, Yun Jian, would not save them. Yun Jian wouldn't take the risk if it didn't bring her any benefits. Yun Jian was not to be blamed for being ruthless. In her world, or rather as a secret agent, she was not to be blamed for being ruthless. Leaving him in the lurch was just to protect himself. Who knew if today's incident was a trap or not? She, Yun Jian, would never do anything that did not benefit her. Duan Tianyu was stunned by Yun Jian's words, but because he was worried about Lin Xiaochu's safety, he was only stunned for a moment before he continued to shamelessly say to Yun Jian, that's because we're all Z citizens. Now that your fellow countrymen are in trouble, you clearly have the ability to save them, yet you refuse to save them. How can there be someone like you in this world? Duan Tianyu insisted that the unreasonable words were reasonable. Yun Jian chuckled and retorted, imitating Duan Tianyu's words. How can there be someone as shameless as you in this world? After saying this, Yun Jian paused. Then, with a flip of her hand, the butterfly knife that she had just retrieved from the criminal's corpse appeared in her hand. Yun Jian held the butterfly knife in her hand and swung it skillfully. Then, she pointed the blade at Duan Tianyu. She was arrogant, but she had the ability to do so. She said arrogantly, looks like you're planning to die under my knife. Then I won't hold back. As Yun Jian spoke, just as she was about to swing the knife, Duan Tianyu was so scared that he rolled away from the side. He was still shouting with all his might, as if he was recalling the scene of Yun Jian killing someone. Chapter 1152. Yun Jian glanced at him coldly. She saw Duan Tianyu roll to the side like a pug after seeing the butterfly knife in her hand. She couldn't help but smile coldly and planned to head upstairs. Just as she was about to head upstairs, she heard the sound of two people kneeling on the ground behind her. Yun Jian lowered her eyes and narrowed them slightly. She turned around and saw the owners of this hotel, who were Eliza's parents, kneeling in front of her. Eliza's father was called Satana, and her mother was called Yule. Eliza's parents were good citizens who knew their place in Country A. At this moment, they were kneeling in front of Yun Jian without a care for their image. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. In the next second, Eliza's father, Satana, kowtowed heavily in the direction of Yun Jian in the middle of the stairs. At the same time, Satana's voice rang out, but he spoke in Country A's language. Hu Chirui and the rest couldn't understand him at all. Eliza is my wife and I's only daughter. She is our life. Young lady, I know you're capable, but I don't want to interfere in this matter. My wife and I are already old. We can't lose our daughter. So I would like to implore you to save our daughter. I know this request is rude. I can also tell that you're used to using that butterfly knife. If you can agree to our request, I'll give you our family heirloom. Our family heirloom is a dagger. It's extremely sharp. The person who owns it can use it to cut anything. If you use its blade to cut a piece of iron, you can cut it into pieces as easily as cutting tofu. As long as you agree to save our daughter, I can transform it into a butterfly knife and give it to you. Satana's words were very sincere. Unlike Duan Tianyu, Duan Tianyu's tone when he spoke to Yun Jian was completely commanding Yun Jian. However, Satana knelt in front of Yun Jian and used his family heirloom to exchange with Yun Jian. After hearing Satana's words, Yun Jian's heart was moved. As an assassin or a special agent, it was undoubtedly very attractive to have a legendary artifact in their hands. Yun Jian had only heard of the kind of knife that Satana was talking about. According to the current level of science, it was still impossible to figure out how to make a knife so sharp. However, there were people who had excavated this kind of incomparably sharp knife from ancient ruins. Legend had it that this knife could easily cut through iron like tofu. It was just that Yun Jian didn't expect Satana's house to have it. Previously, Satana had not mentioned the family heirloom because he was afraid that someone would steal his family saber. However, he had no other choice now. Eliza was his only daughter. If he allowed Eliza to be taken away like this, he didn't know if she would be sent back. He would rather give his family heirloom to the girl in front of him. Even before he made this decision, Satana felt that the power of his family's heirloom dagger was very compatible with the imposing young lady in front of him. What nonsense is this damned old man from Country A talking about? Does he think that just because he knelt down and begged her, she would go and save him? Just now, I asked her to save little Chu, but she refused. This old man from Country A wants her to save him. TSK, dream on. Duan Tianyu couldn't shout for Yun Jian, and he didn't understand Country A's language. However, he could sense that Satana was kneeling in front of Yun Jian to ask Yun Jian to save him. Hu Chirue and the others also thought that Yun Jian wouldn't help. Chapter 1153. Satana actually knew a little Chinese, but it wasn't a coincidence that he purposely used Country A's language to speak to Yun Jian. It was because he didn't want Hu Chirue, Duan Tianyu, Ningxia, and the others to know that his family had a family heirloom. In fact, Satana was the smartest one among the people present. He knew how to capture Yun Jian's heart and use what Yun Jian wanted to exchange for conditions with her. Duan Tianyu, on this level, was the type of person who was mentally retarded. He clearly knew Lin Xiaochu's attitude towards Yun Jian, but he still used a threatening tone to force Yun Jian to save Yun Jian. No matter who it was, they would never agree to save Duan Tianyu. At this moment, Duan Tianyu, who had originally vowed that Yun Jian would definitely not agree to save his daughter from Country A, actually heard her agree. Duan Tianyu and the others couldn't help but be shocked and didn't react for a long time. Adam, Lan Su, you guys stay here. I'll be back soon. Yun Jian didn't look at Adam and Lan Su, who were standing on the second floor. She spoke, and her words were obviously directed at Adam and Lan Su. Okay. Adam responded on behalf of Lan Su. Then he took Lan Su's hand and walked towards the room. At this moment, Yun Jian had already turned around and walked downstairs. Do you have a car? Yun Jian looked at Satana and asked when she came to the first floor. As soon as Yun Jian finished asking, Duan Tianyu reacted. Yun Jian actually agreed to save the daughter of Country A's old man. What do you mean? You won't save your own countryman, but you actually agreed to save this foreigner's daughter. Duan Tianyu asked Yun Jian in a questioning tone. As soon as Duan Tianyu finished his questioning tone, Yun Jian cast a sidelong glance at him and said mercilessly, he promised to give me 1 million yuan and work like a horse for the rest of his life to repay the debt. Are you going to give it to me? If you work like a horse for me, I'll also save people for you. Yun Jian never made a draft when she lied. Satana could understand a little Chinese. He understood that Yun Jian knew that he didn't want to expose the family heirloom, so Satana looked at Yun Jian gratefully. You're asking for too much. 1 million yuan, you're asking for it. I think you've lost your mind thinking about money. Duan Tianyu bellowed at Yun Jian, his face draining of color when he heard her. Yun Jian ignored him and walked past Duan Tianyu. Satana looked at Yun Jian's Yun Jian and Lan Su's Yun Jian's Yun was Yun Jian, Yun's Yun's, Shit Tianyot Hu Chiroe said to the other guy. When he was about to chase after Yun Jian, he suddenly stopped. After hesitating for 2 seconds, Hu Chiroe turned around and looked at Ningxia, who was standing not far away. Hu Chiroe's gaze softened when he looked at Ningxia. He said to Ningxia, "Stay here and don't run around. We'll be back soon." Ningxia knew that she would only cause trouble if she went, so she nodded. At this moment, Hu Chiroe and the other guy were already walking out the door. Duan Tianyu saw that Hu Chiroe was ignoring him and leaving. He snorted and followed him out. At this moment, Yun Jian and the others were standing at the entrance. Yun Jian ignored Duan Tianyu and the others who came out with her. Her goal was only to save Eliza. As for what happened to Lin Xiaochu, it was none of her business. Chapter 1154. Shut up. As soon as Duan Tianyu finished speaking, Yun Jian's crisp voice rang out. Duan Tianyu was frightened by Yun Jian's crisp voice. He shuddered violently and then trembled. He wanted to insult Yun Jian back, but in the end, he opened his mouth and only said, "Ha, at such a young age, you really think you're a god. You didn't come out in time to save him just now, and now look at you. Now we don't even know where he is. Can you find him?" At the end of the day, Duan Tianyu was still blaming Yun Jian for not doing anything when she could have stopped the thugs and saved them just now. "If you say another word of nonsense, I'll kill you right now." Yun Jian raised her leg and kicked Duan Tianyu's chest fiercely, sending him flying several meters away. Duan Tianyu was suddenly sent flying, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The intense pain made Duan Tianyu roll on the ground a few times. In the end, he stood up reluctantly, but he really didn't dare to say another word. He originally thought that Yun Jian wouldn't dare to do anything to him, but he didn't expect that she would actually dare to do something to him. Duan Tianyu could even feel Yun Jian's murderous intent towards him just now. He couldn't help but shiver slightly. At this moment, Satana also walked out of his garage. He looked at Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian, "My tractor broke down, and it can't drive anymore." After hearing Satana's words, Yun Jian lowered her eyes. Because it was already a moonlit night, the bright and beautiful moonlight still faintly shone down, brightly illuminating the sand on the ground. Yun Jian could clearly see the tracks on the sand. "Then we'll walk," Yun Jian said to Satana. As she spoke, her eyes were fixed on the sand from beginning to end. There were almost no cement roads in Country A because there were many deserts in Country A, so the most common road here was sand. Yun Jian looked at the sand on the ground, then she pointed in a direction and said to everyone, "Let's go this way." "Why did you go that way? What if you went the wrong way?" Duan Tianyu had just been beaten up and learned his lesson. Just as he was about to continue speaking, he suddenly remembered how he had been beaten up by Yun Jian. Duan Tianyu shuddered and shut his mouth. "There are traces of the car's tires running over the sand. If we follow the trail, we'll definitely be able to find it." Hu Chiroe was obviously smarter than Duan Tianyu. He quickly explained. As they spoke, the group of people had already run over there. That group of people is now in Hassa village. "They won't go far," Yun Jian, who was walking in front, suddenly said. They didn't know where Yun Jian's confidence came from, so the group of people was stunned. In spite of it, considering Yun Jian's astounding skills earlier, everyone followed her without hesitation. At this moment, under a dilapidated thatched hut in Hausa village, Eliza and Lin Xiaochu were tied to a bench by their deputies. Eliza appeared to be very calm, but Lin Xiaochu was crying the entire time. "I beg you, please let me go. As long as you let me go, I promise I won't call the police. Why don't you just arrest her? I promise I won't tell anyone." Lin Xiaochu kept shouting desperately. The "her" in this sentence was referring to Eliza. Lin Xiaochu liked to sleep naked, so at this moment, she was wearing only a bra and underwear. Her white thighs made the group of criminals jealous. Chapter 1155. As soon as the gangster finished speaking, 5 or 6 gangsters had already unbuckled their belts and walked towards Lin Xiaochu. The gangster who was touching Lin Xiaochu's thigh tore off Lin Xiaochu's underwear, directly exposing Lin Xiaochu's embarrassing private part. "Ah! Get lost! You disgusting country A people! Get lost!" Lin Xiaochu began to howl. She was so shocked that she forgot that these gangsters could speak Chinese. Mother ****. You want to do this the hard way. The gangster slapped Lin Xiaochu's face, immediately causing her face to swell. At this time, one of the gangsters who had unbuckled his belt had already come forward and pulled off Lin Xiaochu's bra. "Ah! Ah!" In the end, only Lin Xiaochu's endless screams were left. It was still very late at night. Near the thatched hut, Yun Jian and the others followed the tire tracks and found this place. "It's that van." Hu Qiru pointed at the van beside the thatched hut. "Let's not alert them." As soon as Hu Qiru finished speaking, Yun Jian did not have any intention of hiding her whereabouts and walked in that direction. ****. She's crazy. I told you not to alert them. Duan Tianyu saw that Yun Jian did not listen to Hu Qiru, and he could not control his mouth, so he immediately shouted, "Shoo, follow her." Hu Qiru reacted quickly. He saw Yun Jian walking forward and knew that Yun Jian must have her reasons, so he did not say anything and followed her. On the other side, Yun Jian had already arrived in front of the thatched hut. The door of the thatched hut was only covered by a piece of old wooden board. Standing outside the hut, they could hear Lin Xiaochu's low moans from inside the hut. The candles in the hut flickered. When Yun Jian heard the sound, she knew what was going on inside the hut. She lifted her leg and kicked open the old wooden door. As soon as she entered, Yun Jian saw a group of gangsters in front of her wearing only a pair of shorts that covered their lower bodies. They stood by the side and watched with satisfaction as a gangster pounced on Lin Xiaochu's body. Little Chu Lin had been screaming at the beginning, but now she was actually enjoying it a little. When Yun Jian kicked open the wooden door, she was shocked to see the gangsters inside. This group of gangsters did not expect Yun Jian to find this place. When they saw Yun Jian, this group of gangsters quickly retreated to a corner. They did not forget how Yun Jian had killed people before. As soon as the thug on Lin Xiaochu's body retreated, Lin Xiaochu didn't even have a piece of cloth to cover her private parts. Hu Qiru and Duan Tianyu, who had followed closely behind, also saw this scene. Hu Qiru caught a glimpse of this scene from the corner of his eye. He quickly turned and left. Xiaochu! When Duan Tianyu saw this scene, he roared. However, because he was afraid of this group of gangsters, he did not rush forward. Yun Jian pretended not to see anything. She walked straight to Eliza and untied the rope that bound Eliza. Aside from the fact that she had watched a free reality show, Eliza wasn't injured at all. Even when Yun Jian walked out of the thatched hut with Eliza, that group of gangsters did not dare to make a sound. Because they thought that Duan Tianyu was with Yun Jian, this group of gangsters saw that Duan Tianyu had untied Lin Xiaochu and did not make a move. Yun Jian had just walked out of the thatched hut with Eliza when suddenly, the sound of a black Lamborghini came from afar. Finally, the car braked and stopped on the spot. One of the two figures who got out of the car made Yun Jian smile slightly. Country A was a poor country. Hassa village was already considered a big village. A family like Satana's was one of the best in the village. If they could own a tractor, they would be considered rich. Eliza and Satana were stunned by the sudden appearance of this black Lamborghini. Hu Chirue and the others had also never seen such a high-end sports car. They were stunned. Chapter 1156. Satana heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that his daughter was safe and sound. Then, he was dazzled by the Lamborghini sports car in front of him. Hassa village was poor, so Satana, who owned a tractor at home, became the richest person in the village. Therefore, when this dazzling black Lamborghini sports car sped over, it simply blinded Satana and Eliza's eyes. Although Hu Chirue and the others were not as exaggerated, they had also never seen such a high-end supercar. They had only seen it in the newspapers before, but they did not expect to see it here. They were immediately dumbfounded and could not help but take a few more glances. As for Duan Tianyu, he was still roaring in the thatched hut. His beloved woman was being sullied by this group of ruffians one after another. His heart was bleeding. After Satana, Eliza, Hu Chirue, and the others saw the two tall men getting out of the dazzling Lamborghini sports car, one of them walked over. One of them went to Yun Jian while the other followed closely behind the younger and more handsome man. "There's no signal here. How did you find this place?" After Yun Jian saw Ce, she walked over without waiting for Ce to come up to her. Then, she took the initiative to stand in front of Ce and asked in a soft voice. When Ce saw Yun Jian sticking to him, he smiled and pulled Yun Jian into his arms in front of Satana and the others. His originally sharp black eyes instantly restrained, like a wild falcon suddenly seeing something it liked. In the blink of an eye, he restrained his sharpness and revealed his most gentle expression. Seeing this scene, the few people who were standing in the distance were obviously shocked by Ce's mysterious and strong aura. When they saw Ce's gentleness toward Yun Jian, they were a little stunned. He gave off the feeling that he was an innate powerhouse. The people present could only watch from afar and could not get close. But when he faced Yun Jian, that kind of aura was instantly restrained. It was as if he was holding a beloved treasure. Even the gaze he looked at Yun Jian with was full of doting. Ce unconsciously held Yun Jian's small hand, then said to Yun Jian in the most gentle tone, "Before you guys came, Adam sent me the location. I found Adam and he told me what happened just now." Obviously, Ce had followed the tire tracks of the van to find them. Yun Jian nodded lightly. At this moment, Ce had already pulled her into his arms. "Mo Sen, kill everyone here." When Ce raised his head, his gaze shifted from Yun Jian to Satana and the others in front of. His eyes suddenly, he looked at Satana and Hu Chirue as if he was looking at a dead man. Was this man crazy? Satana and Hu Chirue thought that since Ce was with Yun Jian, he was one of them. They did not expect Ce to say such a thing. "Kill everyone here. Don't kill them. Kill the group of criminals in the house." Yun Jian grabbed Ce's ice-cold hand and said. Yun Jian had come here to obtain the legendary sharp knife that could cut through steel like tofu. If Satana died, she would not even know where the knife was hidden. Since it was Satana's family heirloom, it must be hidden in a very secretive place. Don't blame Yun Jian for being greedy. She, Yun Jian, had indeed stopped Ce because of that knife. "I'll listen to you." After hearing Yun Jian's words, Ce said gently to Yun Jian. Then he reached out and gestured to Mo-sen behind him. Mo-sen saw this and walked into the straw hut. At this moment, Lin Xiaochu, who had already put on her clothes, staggered out of the straw hut. Because Lin Xiaochu was covered in the smell of criminals, Duan Tianyu did not want to help her up. Not long after, the screams of the criminals begging for mercy could be heard from the hut, as well as the sound of blood splattering everywhere. Satana and the others stood in place with pale faces. Chapter 1157. Because they were suppressed by Ce's aura, no one present dared to utter a single word. After Mo-sen killed the group of thugs in the house, he walked out. Similarly, he didn't utter a single word, but he gave everyone present a bone-chilling feeling. At this moment, Mo-sen directly walked in front of Ce and expressionlessly said to Ce, "Young master, they've all been silenced." After saying this, Mo-sen threw the blood-stained knife in his hand onto the ground with a "pa" sound. This action caused everyone present to tremble and jump in fright. It felt as if killing the group of thugs in the house, killing a group of living people, was a very ordinary thing. Ce indifferently replied. Then, he grabbed Yunjian's small hand and walked towards the Lamborghini sports car. "Take care of the scene." Ce left these 5 short words. He tugged Yunjian toward the Lamborghini. They were halfway there when Lin Xiaochu's fearless voice came from behind them. "What the hell? Ah! Ah! She clearly could have saved me, why didn't she save me just now? It's all her fault that I was." Lin Xiaochu pointed at Yunjian's back and screamed. At this moment, her feelings were extremely complicated. Lin Xiaochu had a boyfriend before, so she wasn't a virgin anymore. However, she was gang-raped in front of so many people. Furthermore, she was seen by her most beloved senior Rui. How was she going to face others? All of this was Yunjian's fault. She clearly had the ability, but she didn't save her. Lin Xiaochu didn't care that Ce had ordered Mo-sen to kill the thugs in the house. It could be said that she didn't even notice that Mo-sen had killed the thugs. Right now, Lin Xiaochu's mind was filled with thoughts of taking revenge on Yunjian. Lin Xiaochu was only halfway through her screams when Duan Tianyu rushed forward and covered her mouth. Just now, Ce wanted to kill them. If Yunjian had not stopped them from the start, they would have been killed by now. Although Duan Tianyu didn't want to touch Lin Xiaochu, who had been gang-raped by the gangsters, he was more afraid of death. Therefore, he immediately rushed forward and covered Lin Xiaochu's mouth to prevent her from saying anything that would provoke Ce. Ce paused for a moment before he grabbed Yunjian's hand and returned to the car. They then drove back to the hotel. Seeing that Ce had come over in the middle of the night, Adam had a reason to take Lan Su to his room. Lan Su didn't refuse this time. Mo-sen slept alone in a room. The next day, Yunjian and the others were ready to set off for the entrance of the tomb. The next day, when Satana woke up and was about to leave, he kept his promise. He made the dagger, which he had spent the whole night making, into a butterfly knife and handed it to Yunjian. In order to make the dagger into a butterfly knife, Satana didn't sleep for the whole night. It could be seen that he was really grateful to Yunjian. "Thank you." Seeing this, Yunjian also thanked him and took the butterfly knife. "I hope you can treat our family's heirloom well." This was Satana's only hope. He solemnly told Yunjian. "Okay." Yunjian nodded. After that, Yunjian and the others set off for the tomb. On the way, Yunjian disguised Ce, Adam, Lan Su, Mo-sen, and herself. Not only did the raccoon know how to disguise himself, but she also knew how to do it. With her original appearance, the 5 of them were too outstanding. Therefore, she disguised the 5 of them, including herself, into very ordinary-looking young people. The tomb wasn't far from Hausa village. Just as they approached the only entrance of the tomb, which was a dry well, they saw that there were tents set up all around them. The car was still moving forward, but after a while, it was stopped by a middle-aged man. Chapter 1158. The entrance is blocked. Yunjian narrowed her eyes and asked. Yunjian and the rest had disguised themselves as ordinary people. Their appearances were very ordinary, except for their slim figures. Yunjian had disguised herself as a young girl with freckles. Her appearance was very ordinary, the kind that people would not be able to remember even if they looked at her 100 times in a crowd. However, her sharpness did not diminish at all. Yes, the middle-aged man stopped Yunjian and the rest out of kindness and spoke to them politely. After a pause, the middle-aged man introduced himself and then explained in detail, "My name is Lu Guodong, and I'm an archaeologist. Half a year ago, I heard from the people who went into the tomb that there were no more treasures down there, so many people came out. Oh right, I believe you've heard of the rumor that the tomb only allowed people to enter but not leave." Later, the rumor was dispelled by a young girl, and that young girl brought everyone out of the tomb. Only a small number of people were still unwilling to come out. But I heard that there were no treasures down there. About 2 months ago, someone found a jade pendant down there, and said that it was an ancient relic. So everyone came here to look for treasures again. It's a pity that they didn't find anything. Who would have thought that there would be a flood 3 days ago, and the huge rocks on the mountain collapsed and blocked the dry well at the entrance of the tomb. The people down there can't come up, and we can't go down either. But don't worry, the excavating engineers said that they can reopen the entrance in 10 days, aha. The middle-aged man, who was the archaeologist named Lu Guodong, was obviously a warm-hearted person. So even if Yunjian and the rest did not ask, he still told Yunjian and the rest in detail. What Lu Guodong did not know was that it was Yunjian who had cracked the rumor of only entering but not exiting the tomb that he was talking about and brought the people out. When Yunjian first came out of Yulong mainland, the people who were waiting for the stone door to open in the Xanadu, which was as big as a sports field in the tomb, saw that there were no treasures inside and followed Yunjian out. Everyone thought that they had waited in vain. Only a small number of people remained in the distance. In the end, 2 months ago, someone found a jade pendant. That jade pendant was an ancient relic and was quite valuable. Therefore, people from all over the world who had lost interest in exploring the tomb once again flocked to the tomb. However, an accident 3 days ago had blocked the entrance to the tomb, which was the dry well. That was why Lu Guodong and the others pitched their tents near the dry well and waited for the engineers to open the entrance before swarming down. Yunjian understood Lu Guodong's words. Since the entrance was blocked, they really couldn't go down. Under Lu Guodong's kind guidance, Yunjian and the others also set up their tents. Lu Guodong was a very warm-hearted person. When it was time for dinner, Lu Guodong came over to invite Yunjian and the others. "Would you like to have lunch with us? We just set up a barbecue grill. Since fate has brought us together, let's have a meal together." "Thank you." Lu Guodong was being kind, so Yunjian thanked him. After that, Ce hugged Yunjian and led the group to where Lu Guodong's friends were. In Lu Guodong's group, there were a few young people. Of course, there were also some who were the same age as him. There was a very ugly woman in her 20s who was dressed to the nines. When she heard Lu Guodong's introduction to Yunjian and the others, she smiled and went up to Yunjian. "Hello, I'm Fang Shaoqin. Let's be friends." As Fang Shaoqin spoke, she thought to herself, "Finally, there's a girl who's uglier than me." Chapter 1159. He, Shaoqin, it's not easy. Finally, there's a girl who looks more attractive than you. Ha ha ha. Sitting not far away from Fang Xiaoqin, a rather pretty woman wearing a pair of short jeans and dressed very fashionably said to Fang Xiaoqin in a strange tone. The girl who looked more attractive than Fang Xiaoqin was none other than Yunjian. The word attractive was also a very indirect mockery that Yunjian was uglier than Fang Xiaoqin. Yan Yan, how can you say that about other girls? This will hurt other girls' self-esteem. Fang Xiaoqin almost shouted in joy when she heard the fashionably dressed woman's words. However, Fang Xiaoqin still had a smile on her face. Right, I still don't know your name, Fang Xiaoqin asked cheerfully as she went up to Yunjian. Yunjian only lowered her eyes slightly and did not answer. She was too lazy to respond. Fang Xiaoqin saw Yunjian's attitude towards her and frowned very obviously. She was disgusted by Yunjian's action of ignoring her for a while. However, when she thought that she had a lot of face standing in front of Yunjian and could prove that she was not the ugliest in the group, she did not fuss about it. Lan Su's appearance was also very average, but compared to Yunjian, she was slightly better. Therefore, Fang Xiaoqin and Lin Meiyan only targeted Yunjian. The group gathered together and Lu Guodong brought a few stools for Yunjian and the others. While they were talking, the good-looking woman called Yan Yan looked at a tall and handsome man in the distance. As if she was afraid that the people around her could not hear her, she called out to the man, Brother Yan Yan, you're so handsome. Wen Yan Gij. We're eating dinner. Do you want to come over and eat together? The woman who was called Yan Yan by Fang Xiaoqin was called Lin Meiyan. After Lin Meiyan called out to the man passing by, the man called Wen Yan walked over. Ah, it's so lively. Wen Yan walked over and stood there. Lin Meiyan was different from Fang Xiaoqin. Lin Meiyan herself was pretty, so when she said those words to Yunjian just now, she wanted Yunjian to pay attention to her. She wanted Yunjian to pay attention to her and be mocked by her. However, Yunjian did not pay attention to her, so Lin Meiyan felt that such an ugly girl actually dared to ignore her. She wanted to embarrass Yunjian in her heart. When the man named Wen Yan came over, Lin Meiyan glanced at Yunjian smugly. Yunjian was baffled. What was there for Lin Meiyan to be cocky about when this man named Wen Yan walked over? Just as she thought, exclamations of exclamations came from all around them. Wow, it's Wen Yan. Lin Meiyan is really capable. She made Wen Yan walk over with just a shout. Ha, isn't that so? Who is this guy? He's the one who saw the girl who dispelled the rumor that the tomb only allowed people to leave and not enter. Wow, is that true? Did he really see the legendary girl who led everyone out of the tomb? The group's bragging attracted Yunjian's attention. Legendary girl. Yunjian narrowed her eyes, then realized that these people were talking about her. Back then, when Yunjian led a group of people out of the tomb that only exited but did not enter, the rumors had spread to this extent. Even Wen Yan, who had seen Yunjian back then, was bragging about it now just because of this. If Yunjian had not disguised herself, he would have recognized her at a glance. Yunjian had just narrowed her eyes when she heard Lin Meiyan say, "Isn't that so?" Brother Wen Yan said that girl was very pretty. As she said that, Lin Meiyan even moved closer to Yunjian and said in a mocking tone, "Little girl, I heard that the legendary girl is about the same age as you. Hee, but she is as beautiful as a fairy." Chapter 1160. Lin Meiyan felt that knowing Wen Yan was something to be proud of, because Wen Yan had seen the legendary girl. Oh. Yunjian was a little impatient, so she casually replied to Lin Meiyan. Ce couldn't be bothered with Lin Meiyan, so he reached out and pulled Yunjian into his embrace. Ce's appearance after his disguise was very ordinary. Although he was tall, he didn't attract any attention. Yun Jian had disguised the 5 of them, including herself, because she did not want them to stand out and attract unwanted attention. However, she didn't expect that they would still attract attention even though they had disguised themselves to be ugly. Lin Mei Yen had only hooked up with Wen Yan not long ago. Because Wen Yan had seen the legendary girl, everyone here worshipped Wen Yan like a god, trying to get information about the legendary girl's deeds from Wen Yan. Because of this, Lin Mei Yen used the fact that she knew Wen Yan as her pride. So when she saw Wen Yan earlier, she called him over because she wanted to show off in front of Yun Jian that she knew someone like Wen Yan. However, Lin Mei Yen never expected that Yun Jian's reaction would be so calm. This made Lin Mei Yen even more unhappy. She cursed in her heart. "You're so ugly, but you don't even give me the reaction I expected." Lin Mei Yen became even angrier as she thought about it. She always wanted to teach Yun Jian a lesson. As she thought about it, Lin Mei Yen saw Ce pull Yun Jian into his embrace, so she became suspicious. "Are you two boyfriend and girlfriend?" Lin Mei Yen asked with a fake smile. "She's mine." When Ce heard Lin Mei Yen's words, he didn't even raise his head. He lowered his eyes and looked at Yun Jian, declaring his sovereignty in a very domineering manner. If it was in the past, when such a handsome man like Ce said such things to Yun Jian, the surrounding people would be extremely envious. But it was different this time. This time, Ce had an ordinary face. Just like Yun Jian's ugly face, she couldn't be remembered in a crowd. "You two are really a good match." An ugly man with an ugly woman, there was really no one more compatible than you two. Lin Mei Yen held back her sarcasm and said sarcastically. Yun Jian and Ce ignored her. Seeing this, Lin Mei Yen felt even angrier. However, at this moment, Lin Mei Yen's eyes suddenly flickered. She realized that Ce and Yun Jian were probably ignoring her because she was much prettier than them. Thinking of this, Lin Mei Yen almost couldn't help but sigh at her own beauty. At this time, the food on the barbecue rack in front of him was also cooked. Lu Guodong distributed food to everyone fairly. After lunch, Lu Guodong brought a group of men to the entrance of the tomb, which was the dry well, to help. It would take a long time for the engineering team to move the rocks that blocked the dry well. Lu Guodong's group didn't have anything else to do. They just wanted to enter the tomb as soon as possible, so they brought the men to help. Ce saw this and brought Mo Sen and Adam over to check out the situation. Yun Jian and Lan Su didn't follow, while Yun Jian was sitting in the same place. Lin Mei Yen was washing the pots and bowls that she had just used with a group of women. She saw that Yun Jian was leisurely and was angry. "Ugly people can be idle, but I'm so beautiful, but I have to work. Is there any justice in this world?" Lin Mei Yen suddenly thought of an idea to mess with Yun Jian. She walked over to pour a cup of hot tea. Just as she was about to deliberately trip and spill the tea all over Yun Jian's body. Suddenly, a woman in the distance shouted in horror, "Oh! That's a wolf. God! How can there be a wolf here?" Chapter 1161. Although there were many tents set up here, it was not to the point of overflowing. Even from where they were, they could see a ferocious male wolf roaring as it gradually walked towards them. Its movements were extremely slow and gentle. "Ah! It's a wolf!" Lin Mei Yen, who was still intoxicated by her beauty, shouted loudly. Then, her whole body trembled as she retreated step by step. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. The group of women around her began to retreat in fear. Some of them hurriedly hid in their tents and stood up from the bench. "Wolf! Wolf!" In a moment, the women present all screamed, their faces pale with fright. Coincidentally, the men had followed Lu Guodong to the well to help. Everyone wanted to enter the tomb as soon as possible. They were afraid that the treasures in the tomb would be snatched away by others. At the place where the tents were set up, there were only women left. Ah! How could this be? The men all went to help. Why is there a wolf here? Some of the women screamed and ran to where the men were, which was the dry well. At this moment, even Wen Yen, who was worshipped like a god, had already gone to the well to help. It could be said that there was not a single man left here. The women subconsciously felt that they were weaker than the men, so in this situation, they were all panicking as if there was no doubt that it was inevitable. Ah! It's coming over. Lin Meiyan was so scared that she grabbed Fang Xiaoqin's clothes tightly. Her face was pale with fright. Run quickly! Run quickly, let's run to the well, they are all there. Some of the women began to shout, thinking that as long as they ran to where the men were, they would be safe. It's too late. Just as the women were about to lose themselves in panic and wanted to run to the men to seek protection, Yun Jian's indifferent and fearless voice rang out. What do you mean it's too late? Do you want us all to die here? How can you be so vicious? Everyone run quickly. Lin Meiyan thought. She suddenly pushed Fang Xiaoqin away and was about to lead the way to the dry well when Fang Xiaoqin stopped her. Awoo! The male wolf howled. What followed was Yun Jian's curled smile, which was extremely strange. She slightly raised her lips and explained, wolves are pack animals. Do you think there will only be one wolf? Just as he finished speaking, dozens of wolves jumped out from the bushes and stared at the group of women in front of them. At the same time, they blocked the path from here to the well. Why are there so many wolves? I don't want to die, sob sob sob. A large group of women hugged each other tightly. They were so scared that they were wailing and trembling all over. Lin Meiyan was also scared out of her wits. The pack of wolves gradually approached, but at this moment, Yun Jian suddenly pulled out the sharp butterfly knife that she had just obtained from Satana from her trouser pocket. She curled her lips and sighed. Then she said to Lan Su, who was behind her without fear in the face of danger, "You came at the right time. I also want to test the power of this knife." "Ha, Lan Su, do it." "Yes." Lan Su obeyed. She flipped her hands and took out 2 darts from her trouser pockets. Lan Su was used to using darts. At this moment, Lan Su held the darts in her hands and used them as knives. You too want to." Lin Meiyan saw this scene. She was so scared that she screamed loudly. Could it be that the two of them wanted to use the weapon in their hands that looked like they had no chance of winning and fight with these dozens of wolves? What kind of joke was this? But at this moment, Lin Meiyan saw Yun Jian's red lips curl up. On that ordinary and freckled face, there was a frightening smile. In the next second, Yun Jian shouted and stepped forward with Lan Su. Chapter 1162. The moment Lin Meiyan spoke, Yun Jian and Lan Su had already rushed into the pack of wolves with knives in their hands. In Country A, there were a lot of ungoverned bushes. Of course, it was precisely because there was no one to govern them that there were a lot of wild animals. Like this pack of wild wolves, they were real carnivores, and at the same time, they were also the rulers of the jungle. Dozens of wild wolves were eyeing the crowd covetously, and were already roaring with hunger. It was obvious that these dozens of wild wolves hadn't eaten for a long time. Hungry wild wolves could pounce on their prey without any regard for their lives when they saw them. Their fighting power was absolutely amazing. And Yun Jian and Lan Su were just 2 weak women. In Lin Meiyan's opinion, she felt that Yun Jian and Lan Su were so ugly, and they really thought that they had some heaven-defying ability. They're holding back the pack of wolves, let's run. Lin Meiyen's first thought was to run away. Because to Lin Meiyen, if Yun Jian and Lan Su dared to rush up, it meant that they were most likely dead. Just right, this could also buy time for her to escape. However, just as Lin Meiyen was about to turn around and run, she heard a woman's exclamation from the side, "Oh my God, she. From the corner of her eyes, she saw that none of the women around her turned around to run. Lin Meiyen suspiciously turned around, but she saw a scene that overturned her worldview. She saw that Yun Jian was leading the pack, and she rushed up to the 3 roaring wild wolves. Oh whoa! The 3 leading wild wolves hadn't even reached Yun Jian yet. They saw Yun Jian's knife swinging from right to left at an extremely fast speed. The group of women present couldn't even see it clearly with their naked eyes. And the 3 wild wolves had already leaped towards Yun Jian, trying to pounce on Yun Jian and bite her ruthlessly. However, just as the 3 wolves were about to pounce on Yun Jian, their internal organs were slashed by Yun Jian's extremely sharp butterfly knife. The internal organs of the 3 wild wolves were cut open at the same time. Their skin and flesh were torn open. In the next second, the hearts of the 3 wild wolves hung out of their flesh and shattered at the same time. He died on the spot. There was not even the slightest bit of struggle. This was the power of the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand, which was forged by Satana and belonged to his family heirloom. Yun Jian curled her lips into a smile. With just a light stroke, the 3 wild wolves died in front of her. She curled her lips in satisfaction at the weapon she had just obtained. This smile carried a hint of wickedness. However, when the group of women in the distance saw this scene, their expressions were even more exaggerated than if they had seen a ghost. Lin Meiyen was so frightened that her entire body stiffened. She didn't dare to move anymore. The expression on her face was even uglier than if she had eaten dog shit. She actually killed 3 wild wolves. And her speed was so fast. Without much time to think, everyone saw Yun Jian kick the 3 leading wild wolves away. The knife rose and fell. Wherever Yun Jian passed, blood splattered. The seemingly ferocious wild wolves couldn't even get close to her before they were killed by her knife. At this moment, Yun Jian was like a death god from hell, mercilessly executing lives one by one. Lin Meiyen and Fang Xiaoqin, who were standing in the distance, were so scared that they almost knelt on the ground. Was this still a teenage girl? She could actually deal with a pack of wolves. And she was unharmed. Even if an adult man saw such a pack of wolves, he would be scared witless. Later, when the men at the other end of the dry well heard the words of a woman who had rushed over to call for help, saying that the women here were blocked by the pack of wolves, they rushed back with their fastest speed only to see this scene. Chapter 1163. Yun Jian was currently stepping on the carcass of a wolf that had just died. She bent down and gently retrieved the butterfly knife that was inserted into the wolf's innards and even chopped the wolf's bones into pieces. Drawing a red arc, she was obviously satisfied with the blade's sharpness. As she pulled it out, she lifted her feet and stood on the ground. Lan Su had killed a few wolves as well, but he did not kill as many as Yun Jian. He was not as intimidating as Yun Jian just now. Lu Guodong, Wen Yan, and the others who had sprinted back from the old well sucked in a sharp breath. Yun Jian's last action just now had hinted that she was the one who had killed the wolves. Am I seeing things? This little girl, she actually killed these dozens of wolves. Oh my God! Is this a joke? There are so many wolves. Even if we made it back in time, we'd have to fight to subdue them. But she and another little girl, these 2 little girls, had actually killed dozens of wild wolves. This was a joke. The people around them began to chatter, their faces draining of color as they spoke. As for the women, they were too frightened to utter a word. The wolves just now had given them too much of a shock. Ce, who had returned from the old well with Adam and Immerse, was obviously not worried that something would happen here. Dozens of wolves were ferocious, but to his Xiao Jian, they were completely harmless. Yun Jian stood in the middle of a pack of wolf carcasses, surrounded by the fresh blood of the carcasses. Even an adult man with strong willpower would be so shocked by the gory scene that he felt nauseous. He might even be secretly afraid of seeing blood. Looking at Yun Jian, however, the girl did not even feel the slightest fear from seeing so much blood and carcasses. It was as if killing so many animals was nothing more than an insignificant thing. In spite of it, no one, be it a man or a woman, dared to approach them. While everyone was still in a daze, a tall silhouette flashed in front of them. In the next second, Ce stepped on the carcasses and came to Yun Jian. At the same time, he reached out to pull Yun Jian into his embrace and murmured softly, "I won't go far from now on. Whether it's killing humans or wolves, I'll do it for you." As he spoke, Ce carefully held Yun Jian's soft hand. His gentleness was a stark contrast to his aloofness when he treated others. Listening to Ce's alluring words, even the women standing far away were envious. If Ce did not look so average, he could probably drive all the women there crazy. At the moment, everyone's attention was on what Ce said. "Whether it's killing humans or wolves, I'll do it for you." Killing humans. These two words made everyone who reacted to the situation stunned in horror. He could actually say the words killing humans so casually. Pfft, don't flaunt your feelings if you're so ugly. How compatible. Both of them were so ugly, how compatible. After Lin Meiyan recovered from her fear, she saw that Yun Jian and Ce were the center of attention. She was very envious and mocked them. Just as she finished speaking, large droplets of rain suddenly fell from the sky. It's raining. Someone reached out to catch a large drop of rain and asked in surprise. At this moment, the rain gradually became heavier. At the same time, the rainwater washed the faces of Yun Jian and Ce. Chapter 1164. Just as Lu Guodong finished speaking, everyone's gazes turned towards Yun Jian and Ce's group of 5. They didn't even care that they were still drenched in the rain when it started raining. They saw that Yun Jian and Ce's faces were disfigured by the rain. After a while, everyone could feel that Yun Jian, Ce, Lan Su, Adam, and Immerse's faces had a thick layer of skin peeled off. "Young madam, what's going on?" Adam reached out to wipe his face in front of everyone's astonishment, and a thick layer of skin peeled off. Adam naturally knew that he was in disguise. He only asked Yun Jian why this thing would fall off. "This thing isn't waterproof," Yun Jian explained. When it started raining, she already knew that this disguise was going to be broken. The makeup she put on their faces wasn't waterproof, so they were naturally exposed when it rained. Yun Jian's original intention wasn't to disguise herself. It was just to avoid attention. In the end, she didn't expect that even though her disguise was ugly, it still attracted attention. She felt helpless. "What do you mean by what isn't waterproof? What are you saying, ugly?" Lin Meiyan was getting more and more annoyed with Yun Jian's words. She stood on the spot and didn't see Yun Jian clearly. However, when she heard Yun Jian's beautiful voice, she thought that the heavens had given Yun Jian a beautiful voice, but didn't give her a beautiful face. How great would it be if she had such a beautiful voice? That way, she would become a beautiful woman with a beautiful voice. However, just as Lin Meiyan finished speaking, she saw Yun Jian use the rain to wipe her face. Then, she revealed a face that was completely different from the one that was so ordinary that no one would be able to recognize her. This face was very delicate and pretty, exquisite to the extreme, small and beautiful. Moreover, this little face that had been washed by the heavy rain, although compared to those enchanting and charming beauties, this delicate and pretty little face did not have the slightest bit of charm. However, this delicate face was many times more beautiful and pleasing to the eye than those enchanting and charming faces. It could be said that at this very moment, Yun Jian, whose disguise had been washed away by the heavy rain, was simply the highlight of the entire scene. In addition, Yun Jian's figure was very slim. Previously, Lin Meiyan's heart was filled with jealousy. Yun Jian was so ugly, but she had such a slim figure. In spite of it, Yun Jian's ugliness comforted Lin Meiyan and Fang Xiaoqin. However, it was this sudden rain that made Yun Jian's face change. The people standing around were all stunned. One by one, they stood in the rain in a daze. None of them thought of going into the tent to hide from the rain. Instead, they stared at Yun Jian. Oh my God! Is she playing a face-changing magic trick? How did she become so beautiful? No, it's not just her. That man, and the other two men, that woman, their faces have all changed. Oh my God! Those three men are so handsome. Those two women are also beautiful. What's going on? Sounds of discussion came from the surroundings. Lin Meiyan and Fang Xiaoqin's faces instantly turned pale. They originally thought that they had found a girl who was uglier than them, but in the end, Fang Xiaoqin was obviously a little disappointed. Lin Meiyan, on the other hand, did not dare to believe it. Lin Meiyan even directly shouted, "No, this is impossible. She must have worn a mask to become so beautiful. Just as Lin Meiyan shouted these words, Wen Yan's voice covered Lin Meiyan's, and came out in horror. You are the legendary girl who brought everyone out of the tomb." Chapter 1165. If Lin Meiyan had suspected that Yun Jian must have done something to make herself beautiful, then Wen Yan's words had completely destroyed Lin Meiyan's theory. Wen Yan was the most popular one because he had seen the girl who had dispelled the rumor of only entering but not leaving in the tomb. And now, under the rain, Yun Jian and the other four revealed their original stunning appearances. But after revealing their original appearances, Lin Meiyan had said that Yun Jian had become so beautiful because she wore a mask. The surrounding people were almost misled by Lin Meiyan's words. After all, could there really be such a beautiful girl in this world? Yun Jian's beauty gave people the illusion that she shouldn't exist in this world. But Wen Yan's words directly refuted Lin Meiyan's words. And what attracted everyone's attention was, Wen Yan actually said that Yun Jian was that legendary girl. Heavens! How was this possible? Now that they knew that Yun Jian was so beautiful, they once again found out that Yun Jian was actually that legendary girl. Lin Meiyan's expression was worse than if she had eaten dog shit. Her face was tense and trembling, and the corners of her mouth were twitching. And what was even more shocking was that not only was Yun Jian's appearance so outstanding, Ce, who was standing beside her, had removed his disguise and was now even more handsome than before. There was actually such a beautiful girl and such a handsome man in this world. At the beginning, Lin Meiyan had not only ruthlessly attacked Yun Jian and Ce's appearance, she had even used the derogatory term compatible to describe them. Lin Meiyan had even bragged about that legendary girl in front of Yun Jian, saying that the legendary girl was as beautiful as a fairy. What she meant was that she wanted to tell Yun Jian that an ugly girl like her was an eyesore in this world. And now, when she found out that Yun Jian was that legendary girl, Lin Meiyan felt as if she had been slapped to the ground by an invisible hand. The more arrogant Lin Meiyan was before, the more embarrassed her expression was now. As for Fang Xiaoqin, who had wanted to get close to Yunjian and make herself look prettier, she didn't look any better. What was different from everyone else's dumbfounded expression was that Ce, the center of attention, was getting close to Yunjian. At this moment, it was raining heavily. After the rain had blurred the makeup on their faces, Ce reached out and pulled Yunjian into his embrace. He held Yunjian completely in his arms and used his firm chest to shield her from the strong wind and heavy rain. "Don't get caught in the rain. Let's go into the tent," Ce said gently. Then, under the envy of the crowd, he held Yunjian's hand and walked towards the tent. Anyone who wasn't blind could tell how much Ce doted on her. He simply doted on her to the bone. Previously, Lin Meiyan felt that Ce's looks were very ordinary and didn't fit her taste. Therefore, she didn't feel envious of how much Ce doted on Yunjian. Instead, she used a mocking tone to criticize him. Now that they had seen Ce's face, even Lin Meiyan was envious of him, let alone the others. "Are the two of you really a couple?" Lin Meiyan wished she could become Yunjian and lie in Ce's arms. She gritted her teeth and blocked Ce from bringing Yunjian back to the tent. "Adam, throw her out." Ce suddenly raised his sharp eyes and looked at Lin Meiyan with murderous intent. Adam walked over and wanted to throw Lin Meiyan out without another word. "Do you still have any sense of reason? This is our territory." Lin Meiyan said this sentence with righteous indignation. Bang! As soon as Lin Meiyan finished speaking, Adam took out a desert eagle from his waist and fired a shot at Lin Meiyan's feet. Chapter 1166. After saying that, Adam didn't shoot Lin Meiyan's head. Instead, he held the gun and fired several shots at Lin Meiyan's feet. Bang! 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 Lin Meiyan was so scared that she turned around and ran. She didn't dare to have any other improper thoughts. "Next time you see her, just kill her," Ce said to Adam. Then, she held Yunjian's hand and walked into the tent. Hearing Ce's words, which treated human lives like grass, the people standing around all trembled. They were obviously shocked by Ce's words. Even after Ce and Yunjian entered the tent, the people around them were still unable to react for a long time. Good shot. That woman deserved a lesson. At this moment, Lan Su walked to Adam's side. She had always maintained her cold appearance, but at this moment, she revealed a shy smile. Lan Su's smile almost melted Adam's heart. Adam was just about to put the desert eagle back into his waist case when he heard Lan Su's words. He grabbed the gun again and wanted to look for Lin Meiyan again. "I'll just kill her in seconds." He had just threatened that woman, and Lan Su had taken the initiative to stand beside him and praise him. If he killed that woman, wouldn't Lan Su obediently throw herself into his arms? Just as Adam raised his gun, Immerse held him down. Immerse coughed a few times, paused, and then said, "Adam, young master and young madam haven't said anything yet. Don't be impulsive." Immerse was Adam's biological brother, but he never called him brother. Normally, he even used strict requirements to reprimand Adam. But in fact, everything Immerse did was for Adam's good. Lan Su saw the interaction between Immerse and Adam, and she couldn't help but laugh. A second later, Lan Su immediately restrained her smile. She pretended to be cold and walked towards a small stream. "I'm going out for a walk." After saying something to Immerse and Adam, Lan Su braved the rain and walked forward. "Where are you going?" "Rushing out without an umbrella." Adam frowned. Then, he went back to the car and took out a black umbrella. He followed Lan Su's footsteps. Immerse stood where he was and shook his head, laughing involuntarily. He knew that Adam's interest in Lan Su wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing, so he already treated Lan Su as his sister-in-law. 10 days wasn't a long time. Besides, Yun Jian had CE. Every day, during breakfast and lunch, CE would hold her little hand and walk around. Although he would sometimes do some shameful things to her when there was no one around, Yun Jian was secretly looking forward to it. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. The construction team was very diligent. Even though it was supposed to take 10 days, they really managed to remove the last piece of rock that covered the dry well on the afternoon of the 10th day. This also meant that they could enter the tomb. From the beginning to the end, Lu Guodong didn't look down on Yun Jian and the others. When the dry well was opened, Lu Guodong ran over to tell Yun Jian and the others. Everything was ready. Lu Guodong and the others planned to enter the tomb with Yun Jian and the others. Yun Jian didn't refuse. Just when Yun Jian and the others were ready, Lu Guodong and the others were also ready. A woman's voice sounded, "Hey, it's you guys." Yun Jian turned around and saw that the people who appeared in front of her were Ning Xia, Hu Chirue, and the others who she met in Hassa village some time ago. Originally, Yun Jian had a good impression of Ning Xia and Hu Chirue, but the premise was that they didn't go with Lin Xiaochu and Duan Tianyu. Yeah. When she heard Ning Xia ask her, Yun Jian still responded. Hu Chirue was very smart. He looked at Lu Guodong and asked, "Hello, we also want to enter the tomb. Can we go together?" Hu Chirue knew that Lin Xiaochu and Duan Tianyu had a dispute with Yun Jian, so he could only ask Lu Guodong and the others. Only then could they peacefully enter the tomb together. "Sure, let's go together. There's strength in numbers." Lu Guodong smiled politely. Yun Jian naturally didn't care. After all, the final destination of the 5 of them was different from this group of people. Chapter 1167. Just as they arrived at the mouth of the well, Lin Xiaochu and Lin Meiyan were both shocked by the depth of the well that stretched from the mouth of the well to the bottom. "Ah, why is it so deep? Will I get hurt if I go down? What are we going to do if you fall and hurt yourself?" Lin Xiaochu took 2 steps back in fear. She wanted to go to Hu Chirue's side, but he dodged her. Lin Xiaochu gritted her teeth and turned to throw herself into Duan Tianyu's arms. If it was in the past, Duan Tianyu would definitely hug Lin Xiaochu immediately. But this time, Lin Xiaochu wanted to lean on Duan Tianyu in fear, but Duan Tianyu dodged her. Duan Tianyu only needed to look at Lin Xiaochu to remember the scene 10 days ago when the group of gangsters were all over her body. To Duan Tianyu, Lin Xiaochu was already dirty. No matter how much he liked her in the past, he had to keep his distance in the future. Lin Xiaochu, who clearly felt Duan Tianyu's actions, was filled with anger. So what if Yun Jian was powerful and killed a lot of people? She could have saved her at that time. Even if Lin Xiaochu was with the group of gangsters that day. She had enjoyed it, but she had also embarrassed herself. Even Duan Tianyu, who used to crazily chase after her, had distanced himself from her. At this moment, Lin Xiaochu didn't care how powerful Yun Jian was. She only wanted to teach Yun Jian a lesson. It would be best if she let Yun Jian experience the feeling of being gang-raped. "I'll go first." Yun Jian saw this group of people dilly-dallying, but she couldn't be bothered to wait. She jumped into the well with Ce and the others without any hesitation. Yun Jian was the legendary young girl. She had already entered the tomb, so she must be very familiar with the terrain below. Lu Guodong saw this and immediately shouted, "If you want to follow, then follow. If you don't want to, you can go back now." As he spoke, he also jumped down. Perhaps because Lu Guodong was older, he was more persuasive. So when Lu Guodong spoke, the voices of people like Lin Xiaochu who were complaining instantly disappeared. Yun Jian had been here before, so she was naturally familiar with the terrain here. As for Wen Yan, although he had seen Yun Jian before, it was when Yun Jian brought everyone back from the tomb. He had never been to the tomb. At this time, Yun Jian had already easily led everyone to the mud hole that was as big as a basketball court. There were still a few people stationed here. It seemed like some of them were still waiting for the stone door to open. Lu Guodong and the others were surprised to see such a large mud cave. After all, none of them had entered the tomb, nor had they seen this paradise. At the front of the mud cave, the stone door and the cave beside it were still there. Legend had it that after waiting here for a year, the stone door would open, and behind the stone door would be another world. Unfortunately, some people had already waited for a year, but the stone door showed no signs of opening. At this moment, the only place they could pass through quickly without having to wait was this cave. However, the cave was riddled with traps. Even a fly would not be able to enter. When Yun Jian brought people out of the tomb, the legend of the cave and the stone door was no longer a secret. Yun Jian had just arrived when she turned to Lu Guodong and said, "Let's part ways here." When Lu Guodong heard this, he was confused. "Where are you going?" Back then, the legendary girl who had led the people out of the tomb had also passed through the stone cave with monstrous mechanisms. This matter had not been spread out. Lu Guodong and the others did not know. Yun Jian pursed her lips and smiled. She walked towards the cave with Ce and the others. When Lu Guodong saw this, he was shocked. "I heard that all the assassins on the International Assassin chart died in that cave. Could it be that you want to?" Just as Lu Guodong's words were shocking, Wen Yan, who was in the know, said something that terrified everyone present. Chapter 1168. As soon as Wen Yan finished speaking, it was as if he wanted to introduce Yun Jian's abilities to everyone, so he spoke louder and with an exaggerated tone. "I heard that as long as a person walks into this cave, their heart will be pierced by thousands of arrows. If they can't avoid it, then these arrows will pierce through them on the spot, and their bodies won't even be found." Back then, countless international assassins and secret agents, as well as Long Shao from all over the world, came here one after another, trying to pass through this cave, but none of them succeeded. And that girl and the other 3 men are the only people in the world who can pass through this cave. Towards the end, Wen Yan's expression was very intense, as if the legendary person who could pass through this cave was himself. "Brother Wen Yan, is this cave really that powerful?" A group of people were following closely behind Yun Jian's group of 5 towards the cave. Hearing Wen Yan's words, Lin Meiyan couldn't help but ask. From Lin Meiyan's tone, it was clear that she didn't really believe Wen Yan's words. Just based on this cave, could it really be that powerful? So many international bigwigs couldn't pass through it. Only Yun Jian's group could pass through. Although Yun Jian's skills were really shocking, Lin Meiyan didn't really believe that Yun Jian and those 3 men could pass through the cave that even other international bigwigs couldn't pass through. "Brother Wen Yan, what you're saying is probably just hearsay, right?" Lin Meiyan asked again. "It's hearsay, but I'm sure that it's all true." Wen Yan saw that Yun Jian's group of 5 were almost at the entrance of the cave, so he said even more firmly. "It's them. I heard that there were 4 people who entered the cave, but I didn't know who they were." Lu Guodong also came out to testify at this time. Just as they finished speaking, Lin Meiyan's eyes suddenly lit up, then she led the group towards Yun Jian's group of 5 even faster. At the same time, Lin Meiyan shouted Yun Jian's name loudly, "Hey, Yun Jian." When they were almost at the entrance of the cave, Yun Jian turned sideways and stopped, then slightly turned to look at the group behind her. Lin Meiyan had already called out to her. Lu Guodong was standing not far away, He smiled at Yunjian's group and said, "Although I don't know why you have to pass through the cave again, I hope you have a safe journey." Lu Guodong's words were very sincere. Yunjian also narrowed her eyes. During this period of time, Lu Guodong had been taking care of them as an elder. "We will." Before Yunjian could speak, he reached out and hugged Yunjian to his arm. "Hey! Are you guys planning to pass through by yourselves? We're to go through to everyone's to pass through to us. At the very least, we came here together." Lin Meiyan spoke once more, forgetting the lesson she had learned not too long ago. As to say, this, to be, to say, to, Lin, to turn, to walk, be. What a joke. If you don't know how to bring anyone, then what about that woman? Since Brother Wen Yen said that only the four of you pass through this cave, if you don't bring her, how can that woman pass through? Lin Meiyan seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. She pointed at Lan Su and spoke very confidently. However, before Lin Meiyan finished speaking, there was a stranger who had been waiting here for the stone door to open for a long time. After looking around Lan Su for a long time, he finally looked at Lan Su and said, "Aren't you the woman who came out of this cave a few months ago? We didn't see you enter the cave, and you were wearing ancient clothing, could it be?" Chapter 1169. This person had been standing here looking at Lan Su for a long time. He felt that Lan Su's face was somewhat familiar. Later on, he heard from Lin Meiyan that Lan Su definitely couldn't pass through the stone cave. She was with Yunjian, so Yunjian naturally wouldn't leave her behind. Just when Lin Meiyan said that Lan Su, how could that woman pass through, this person suddenly thought of something. A few months ago, there was a 16-year-old girl wearing a black plain dress who passed through the stone cave just like that. At that time, it caused a panic among the people who were still waiting for the stone door to open. "What did you say?" "This woman, she came out from the stone cave." Lin Meiyan and the others were all stunned. They were all dumbfounded on the spot, and looked at Lan Su in disbelief. That person saw that Lin Meiyan and the others didn't believe him, so he opened his mouth and said, "This is absolutely true. I've been here for at least a year. Other than seeing these four people come out of the stone cave one after another, I haven't seen anyone else enter the stone cave. When she came out of the stone cave wearing a black dress, it scared the hell out of us." "Oh. That's right, I remember now. It wasn't just her. There was also a man wearing a black robe who came out of the stone cave. And the most bizarre thing is that she and that man wearing a black robe have never entered the stone cave. We've been here for so long, and we've never seen anyone who entered the stone cave and didn't come out. It's as if they came from another world, and came out of the stone cave." The man who stood up and spoke wore a pair of glasses. He looked refined, and wasn't young either. He was probably in his 40s. Thus, no one questioned what he said. But at this moment, other than shock, no one present could find any other expression. Originally, Yunjian didn't have a good opinion of the man wearing glasses' words. After all, if Lan Su's identity was exposed, it wouldn't be good for them. It was only when the bespectacled man finished speaking that Yunjian snapped back to reality. "A man wearing a black robe?" Yunjian narrowed her eyes and asked. Seeing such a beautiful girl like Yunjian asking him, the man was silent for 2 seconds before nodding and saying, "Yes, I remember that man wearing a black robe." Only his eyes were exposed. He was very strange and mysterious. As the man wearing glasses spoke, he couldn't help but shake his head. Clearly, he was lamenting. But obviously, this man's words successfully attracted Yunjian's attention. He was dressed in a black robe, and he was a man from the Yulong mainland, Why was this person so similar to the mysterious person mentioned by the leader? Back then, after eliminating the Inferno ring, he found out that the real murderer of his brother's predecessor was a mysterious person. Yun Jian had also tried to find that person. Even later, Yun Jian was assassinated. It was as if someone was manipulating everything behind the scenes. And connecting all the dots, the mysterious person's motive was the biggest. Not long ago, Yun Jian had learned from Hu Batian, whom she had killed, that the mysterious person who controlled the former Inferno ring and had been pulling strings behind the scenes was from Yulong mainland. Today, she heard from the man wearing glasses that other than Lan Su, there was another man wearing a black robe who came out of the stone cave, which was Yulong mainland. Then, she was 90% sure that the mysterious person was the person the man wearing glasses was talking about. Chapter 1170. As soon as Yun Jian spoke, the bespectacled man fell into deep thought. Because the mysterious person had appeared much earlier than Lan Su coming out of the cave, the bespectacled man had to carefully recall the characteristics of the mysterious person. Hee, do you think you're filming a mythical TV series? You're so mysterious, as if it's real. Those who don't know would think that you're acting. Seeing that Yun Jian had successfully attracted the attention of a circle of people, Lin Xiaochu remembered that she had been humiliated because Yun Jian didn't save her in time. Therefore, Lin Xiaochu angrily opened her mouth, trying to embarrass Yun Jian at this moment. When Lin Meiyan heard Lin Xiaochu's words, it was as if she had suddenly found a helper. So this girl also hated Yun Jian so much. After Lin Xiaochu finished speaking, Lin Meiyan agreed, that's right. She's so mysterious. What other world? What? This is a lawful society. An era where science is advocated. We're not filming a TV series. Can you be more normal? Don't act like you know everything. Lin Meiyan and Lin Xiaochu, both of whom had the surname Lin, were like a family. Very quickly, they began to attack Yun Jian together. Yun Jian only slightly narrowed her eyes, but her eyes were fixed on the bespectacled man. She seemed to be waiting for the bespectacled man's reply. Oh. I remember now, that mysterious person didn't have a right pinky. At that time, he wrapped himself up tightly, but when he raised his hand, I saw that he didn't have a pinky on his right hand. The bespectacled man suddenly thought of this and quickly said to Yun Jian. After hearing this, Yun Jian and Ce looked at each other, then she curved her lips and said to the bespectacled man, "Thank you." After saying this, Yun Jian and the other four turned around and walked towards the cave. They completely ignored Lin Xiaochu and Lin Meiyan. Hey, you're leaving just like that? You guys. Lin Meiyan saw that Yun Jian and the rest did not even look at her. Just as she was about to say something, Yun Jian and the rest had already arrived at the entrance of the cave. Then, with Yun Jian taking the lead, the five of them quickly flashed into the cave, dodging the flying arrows almost instantly and disappearing from everyone's sight. The five people's nimble movements made everyone's eyes widen. They really went in. When Lin Meiyan saw Yun Jian and the other four enter the cave, the flying arrows began to move recklessly. She almost cried out in shock. Just from the frequency of the flying arrows, even the people standing in the same place could feel that it was impossible to pass through this cave, right? Lin Meiyan felt a deep fear. If it was him, even if he was being carried by Yun Jian, he would have been so scared that he wouldn't dare to move when he saw those mechanisms. Would he be pierced by thousands of arrows? Just thinking of this scene, Lin Meiyan shuddered violently. When the others saw this scene, their expressions also changed slightly. Even the bespectacled man took a deep breath, then opened his mouth in front of everyone's eyes and said, "I've been here for a long time, and all the people who tried to enter the cave before were all pierced by thousands of arrows." Those people were all pierced by at least 100 flying arrows, and even their corpses exploded in an instant. Those 5 young people are indeed capable. That skill, it's simply not something that a human should have. The bespectacled man's exclamation made Lin Meiyan and Lin Xiaochu's hair stand on end and tremble. Chapter 1171. At this moment, Ce was already holding Yunjian's little hand as they passed through a long stretch of pitch-black stone tunnel. Then, a bright light flashed before their eyes. When they came back to their senses, they had already arrived at the Yulong continent. As they had been here before, this stretch of road was familiar to everyone. After exiting the stone tunnel and arriving at a brand new world, Lan Su said to everyone, "We're here. I can cast a spell to bring you back to the witch tribe directly. It'll be a little far from here." At this point, Lan Su paused, then turned to look at Ce, Adam, and Mo Sen. "Before that, could I trouble your excellency to disguise yourself again?" At this point, Lan Su did not forget to explain. "Your excellency, you come from the deity continent that controls the life and death of all continents. In our hearts, you're a god. So if you appear, it might cause a commotion in the entire Yulong continent. So, I'll have to trouble you to disguise yourself as an ordinary person and return with us. What about the 2 of us?" Adam walked over and put his arm around Lan Su's waist, then pointed at himself and Mo Sr. "You're both your excellency's people and also from the deity continent. I don't know why you're on Earth, so of course you have to disguise yourself." Lan Su struggled a little as Adam held her waist. In the Yulong continent, if an unmarried woman or an unmarried man were to be so close to a woman, they would be reviled by the world. In the Yulong continent, the monogamy system was far stricter than in country Z. Here, if someone were to have an affair in marriage, then both the person and the mistress would be hanged to death. This is the Yulong continent. You should show some respect. Lan Su said. If an unmarried man and woman were to be seen hugging each other, even a passerby would have the right to interfere. How can I respect you? Is there anything on your body that I haven't touched? Adam said as he moved closer to Lan Su. Before he finished his words, Mo Sen had already grabbed Adam and pulled him aside. "Brat, behave yourself." As Adam's brother, Mo Sen still had this imposing manner. At this moment, Lan Su explained, in Yulong mainland, only married couples can hug each other in public. Here, as long as the marriage contract is signed, 2 rings will automatically appear. As long as they have this pair of rings, it means that the man and woman are husband and wife. Even if they do something in public, they are allowed. Lan Su's words made Mo Sen raise his eyebrows. Yun Jian had also never heard of this before. She turned her gaze to Lan Su. As soon as Lan Su finished speaking, Ce, who had been silent all this time, suddenly asked, "How do we sign the marriage contract?" Lan Su was surprised to hear Ce ask, but when she recovered, she explained patiently, "I'm not sure if you'll be able to do it. As long as you have a little spiritual power, you can summon the marriage contract array. Once the marriage contract is formed, it means that the 2 people are husband and wife, just like the people on Earth getting a marriage certificate, but this is more direct." Spiritual power was what people in Yulong mainland called their cultivation level. Lan Su added, "Usually, the marriage contract can only be signed with the consent of both the man and woman. However, if the man's spiritual power is stronger than the woman's, or if the woman's spiritual power is stronger than the man's, the marriage contract can be forcefully signed." Since she had said this, Lan Su had to add, "That's right. If the marriage contract is signed here, then even if you leave Yulong mainland and go to Earth, the contract will still be valid." Lan Su's last sentence successfully attracted Ce's attention. Yun Jian leaned in front of Ce. She was pressed against Ce's warm chest. No one saw the slight smile on Siyi's thin lips when he heard Lan Su's last sentence. At the same time, he stretched out his large, bony palm. In the dark, after he stretched out his hand, a spiritual power so strong that it could raise the entire Yulong mainland to the ground condensed in his large palm. However, it was only a flash. Chapter 1172. Yun Jian leaned against Siyi's chest, so she didn't see the slight smile on Siyi's lips. "We can set off now," Yun Jian said at this moment. Yun Jian didn't think that what Lan Su said was important, so she interrupted them. "All right." Lan Su obediently shut up and didn't say anything else. Just like that, the group was brought back to the sorcerer tribe by Lan Su. It would take some time to return to the sorcerer tribe from the exit of Yulong continent from Earth. With Lan Su and the others, it would take even longer. It took them 2 full days. In these 2 days, Yun Jian put on human skin masks for Ce, Adam, and Mo Sen, just in case something happened the last time. These 3 human skin masks were much more complicated than the disguise technique from before. More materials were used to make them, and the cost was also high. They were only one-time use. Yun Jian only gave them to prevent them from falling off when it rained like the last time. On the way back, Lan Su even returned the sandalwood box to Yun Jian. "Sorcerer goddess, this is yours. We're going back to the sorcerer tribe now. It doesn't matter if you're willing to help the sorcerer tribe return to its former glory or not. It belongs to you." This time, Lan Su didn't call out Yun Jian's name directly. Instead, he looked at her with a very calm expression and said these words that could be considered a sincere request. Yun Jian frowned slightly. She wanted to refuse, but when she saw Lan Su's sincere face, she raised her eyebrows and changed her words, "All right." She then took the sandalwood box from Lan Su's hands. On the way back, Lan Su also changed into a black ancient plain robe. Only Ce, Lan Su, and Yun Jian didn't change their clothes. They were all wearing modern clothes. "We're here. This is the sorcerer tribe." After 2 days of travel, Lan Su finally brought everyone to the sorcerer tribe. At this time, Yun Jian was standing in front of a large ancient building. This large ancient building was different from the houses of any dynasty left behind on Earth. Its size and grandeur were so great that even the shamans, who had fallen, would still be shocked by this magnificent ancient building. The entire hall of the sorcerer tribe was covered by a layer of darkness. If there were any experts or scholars here, their eyes would probably pop out of their sockets. This was because the main hall of the sorcerer tribe had been built for thousands of years without any cracks. More importantly, the main hall of the sorcerer tribe was not built with any soil or cement that existed on Earth. Judging from its composition, it was easy to tell that it did not belong to Earth. The first thing Yun Jian saw when she raised her head was a huge crystal ball lying on the ground in front of the large building, which was also the front of the sorcerer tribe's main hall. No one was taking care of it. It wasn't that no one was taking care of it, but that no one dared to take care of it. That was something left behind by the sorcerer god. "Let's go in." Lan Su took a deep look at the shattered pieces of the huge crystal ball, then led the way in. Yun Jian replied softly. Thus, the group continued to move forward. However, before they could reach the center of the sorcerer tribe's main hall, a group of people around the same age as Lan Su stopped Lan Su. They were dressed in black ancient clothing. The leader of the group was a clean-looking young girl. At this moment, she was boldly blocking Lan Su's way. This young girl was different from Lan Su. She was born not long ago, but Lan Su had lived for thousands of years. She, as well as the group of young boys and girls behind her, had never seen the sorcerer god's true appearance. Thus, when the young girl saw Yunjian, she was only stunned by her beautiful appearance. However, the young girl looked at Ce and the other two indifferently. Finally, she looked at Lan Su and mocked. Chapter 1173. This young girl stood arrogantly in front of Lan Su. She tilted her head, and her 16 or 17-year-old face was filled with arrogance. Shut up. Wu Qing, how dare a junior like you be so arrogant? I'll send you to hell right now. Hearing the girl named Wu Qing's words, Lan Su almost couldn't hold back. She flipped her hands and 2 darts condensed from spirit energy appeared in her hands. You! Ha, Lan Su, don't forget that my aunt is in charge of the sorcerer tribe. If you dare to be rude to me, I'll ask my aunt to chase you out immediately. This girl called Wu Qing had a high status in the sorcerer tribe because her aunt was the current leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Lan. In the sorcerer tribe, the leader was always the most powerful. In the sorcerer tribe, everything had to be done by the leader. However, this was only when the sorcerer god wasn't around. In the sorcerer tribe, there was only one sorcerer god. The only person who could decide the fate of the sorcerer tribe was the sorcerer god. In the sorcerer tribe, the leader was always the most powerful. However, in front of the sorcerer god, even if the sorcerer god killed the leader in front of everyone, she still had the right to do so. This was the sorcerer god's right. The sorcerer god could change the leader of the sorcerer tribe at any time. The reason why the sorcerer god was called a god was because in the sorcerer tribe, the sorcerer god was like a god. If she said 1, no one in the sorcerer tribe would dare to say 2. Of course, that was a long time ago. Many of the juniors in the sorcerer tribe had never seen the sorcerer god, just like Wu Qing. Wu Qing and the other juniors had never seen the sorcerer god, so they thought that the sorcerer god was just a legend. In comparison, Wu Qing and the others even thought that the leader had the final say in the sorcerer tribe. What sorcerer god? That was nonsense. Ha, Lan Su, don't think that you can be arrogant just because you're the first protector of the sorcerer god who has never shown his face. Let me tell you, this is no longer the era of the sorcerer god. In the sorcerer tribe, my aunt has the final say. She loves me the most. Even if I want you to die now, you're going to die too. Wu Qing's words were full of righteousness. At the same time, she pointed at Lan Su and spoke arrogantly. Just as she said this, a few young men and women around Wu Qing's age fought to be the first to speak. Exactly. The legendary sorcerer goddess has never shown her face. Who knows if she really exists or not? It must be fake. Hee hee. Wu Qing raised her head and looked at Lan Su even more arrogantly when she heard the voices around her helping her. Lan Su, I don't know why my aunt respects you so much, but don't get carried away. F***ck, don't think that I won't hit you just because you're a child. If you dare to say anything bad about her again, I'll kill you right now. Adam couldn't bear to listen any longer. Adam didn't say anything when he was stopped by Lan Su. Now that he heard Wu Qing's insults, he almost rushed up to her and beat her up. For some reason, Wu Qing was startled by Adam. However, she quickly regained her composure. Wu Qing glanced at Adam. Just as she was about to curse back, a slightly mature but crisp female voice sounded, Qing. Wu Qing immediately turned around when she heard the voice. Aunt! Wu Qing was very happy when she saw the woman who suddenly appeared. Now that her aunt was here, she could vent her anger. Auntie, I don't know where Lan Su brought a few people back from. Hurry up and chase these people away. Wu Qing skipped over to Wu Lan. She had just grabbed Wu Lan's hand and was waiting for Wu Lan to help her vent her anger when she heard Wu Lan's words. Wulan and the group of elders she brought all looked at the strangely dressed girl beside Lan Su. Chapter 1174. When Wulan and the rest saw Yunjian, Wulan and the elders behind her immediately knelt down in front of Yunjian. The reason was simple. The sorcerer god was too powerful back then. The sorcerer god's power back then was enough to make Wulan and the elders behind her tremble in fear. Even though it was no longer the era when the sorcerer god was at his peak, Wulan was still shocked when she saw Yunjian, who looked exactly like the sorcerer god. Wu Qing was dumbfounded when she saw her aunt kneel down in front of the girl that Lan Su had brought back. In the sorcerer tribe, every person who was born was taught a philosophy. As long as the sorcerer god was around, the sorcerer tribe would definitely prosper. One day, the sorcerer god would return and lead the sorcerer tribe to the top of the Yulong mainland. The sorcerer god had once promised that he would return after 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, the sorcerer god would definitely return. Wu Qing had been taught this philosophy since she was young. She dared to say this because she had never seen the sorcerer god in person and thought that he was just a legend. However, when she saw her aunt, whom she had admired since she was young, and who was always high and mighty in front of everyone, actually kneeling before the peerlessly beautiful young lady beside Lan Su and addressing her as the sorcerer goddess, Wu Qing was completely dumbfounded. Wu. Sorcerer god. Aunt, what did you say? She is the sorcerer god. No matter how unhappy she was, Wu Qing still turned to look at Yunjian and asked Wulan in shock in front of everyone. Not only Wu Qing, but even the group of young men and women standing behind Wu Qing were all dumbfounded. Qing, don't be rude. If you point your finger at the sorcerer god again, you will be expelled from the sorcerer tribe. When Wulan saw her niece pointing at Yunjian, she quickly stood up and grabbed Wu Qing's hand, kneeling down in front of Yunjian with Wu Qing. Seeing that the sorcerer tribe leader was so scared that she directly knelt down in front of Yunjian, the group of juniors of the sorcerer tribe were so scared that they all knelt down one by one. This was the reputation of the sorcerer god. These juniors might not know, but Wulan had been the clan leader for thousands of years. Wulan and the elders behind Wulan clearly remembered what the sorcerer god had done in the past. When the sorcerer god was alive, the sorcerer tribe would prosper. When the sorcerer god was dead, the sorcerer tribe would fall. Therefore, Wulan and the others were extremely respectful towards the sorcerer god. Yunjian stood in front of a group of people. She narrowed her eyes and watched as the group of people knelt before her. When Lan Su, who was standing beside Yunjian, saw this, she also turned around and walked towards Yunjian. Then, she gently placed her hands in front of her chest and bowed deeply towards Yunjian. At the same time, Lan Su shouted in a very emotional tone, "I, the sorcerer god, am upholding the promise from 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years later, I return to the sorcerer tribe. Sorcerer god. Sorcerer god. Sorcerer god." With the sorcerer tribe leader Wulan leading the group of people gradually shouted. In an instant, their shouts shook the sky. Yunjian looked at the scene in front of her and felt that it was déjà vu. However, at this moment, a woman dressed as a maid suddenly rushed over from the side. After the woman rushed here, she lay on the ground as if she was paralyzed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Before she fainted, she shouted her last words, "Master, I'm sorry." Chapter 1175. After the woman finished her last sentence, she completely fainted. The crowd, who had been full of vigor, was furious when they heard that the Murong family had come to cause trouble again. 1,000 years ago, the Murong family was only a small aristocratic family. Their status was so high that people could ignore them. However, ever since the sorcerer god had fallen, the Murong family had climbed from a small aristocratic family to one of the 4 great aristocratic families of the Yulon continent. Now, the Murong family's status had almost surpassed that of the number 1 aristocratic family of the Yulon continent. The sorcerer tribe had fallen. The sorcerer tribe had now been reduced to a small aristocratic family. As a once prosperous aristocratic family, the Murong family loved to bully the sorcerer tribe members. As the saying goes, there is no harm if there is no comparison. To the Murong family members, 1,000 years ago, the Murong family could not be compared to the sorcerer tribe. Now, the once prosperous sorcerer tribe had fallen to their current state. Now, the sorcerer tribe could not be compared to the Murong family. This stark contrast allowed the Murong family members to rejoice in their success. Hence, the Murong family members loved to cause trouble for the sorcerer tribe members. They even treated the lives of the sorcerer tribe members as child's play and killed them as they pleased. Some of the Murong family members had even raped the young girls of the sorcerer tribe in public. This was because compared to other families, the women of the sorcerer tribe cared more about their reputation. In the sorcerer tribe, if a woman held hands with a stranger, she would be punished. If she lost her chastity, the woman could only marry the man who had taken her chastity. Otherwise, she would kill the man. Or she would commit suicide. It was because they knew this that the Murong family members loved to defile the young girls of the sorcerer tribe. As the leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wulon had no way and no power to stop them. This was because the sorcerer tribe was no longer the prosperous aristocratic family they had been 1,000 years ago. If they could not bear it, they could openly oppose the Murong family. Then, the sorcerer tribe would not only be humiliated, but they would also be destroyed. If the Murong family wanted to deal with the sorcerer tribe, it would be a piece of cake. Clan leader, so many young girls of the sorcerer tribe have been defiled. This time, we can't take it anymore. Just as the woman finished speaking, someone stepped forward and spoke loudly. At the same time, this person's eyes were filled with tears. The sorcerer tribe members of the sorcerer tribe were mostly sorcerer tribe. Most of the sorcerer tribe were women. There were also men, but not many of them. Most of them were women. Moreover, the women of the sorcerer tribe were very pure. This was because the sorcerer tribe had a rule that forbade any woman from getting close to any man before marriage. However, the Murong family's actions had forced the sorcerer tribe into a dead end. Therefore, the people of the sorcerer tribe yearned for the sorcerer tribe to prosper as much as they yearned for the return of the sorcerer god. Wulon clenched her fists tightly. At that moment, a clear female voice rang out. The Murong clan. Is it the clan that sent people to assassinate Lan Su? Everyone turned to look at Yun Jian when they heard her voice. This was the first time Yun Jian had spoken since she returned to the shaman tribe. Everyone looked at Yun Jian. Lan Su, who was standing in front of Yun Jian, nodded. Yes, the Murong family was the one who sent people to assassinate me, but in the end, Adam blocked the knife and the gun for her and suffered a very serious injury. Hearing Yun Jian speak, everyone turned to look at her. Chapter 1176. Did Yun Jian mean that she was going to attack? The sorcerer goddess was going to attack. The people from the sorcerer tribe were all stunned. They stared at Yun Jian as if they had seen their savior. Ce, who stood beside Yun Jian, had a faint glint in his eyes. He suddenly arched a brow as if he had a plan in mind. Right now, Yun Jian was standing in front of everyone with an imposing aura. Her red lips curled into a chuckle. Lead the way. Yun Jian's aura was very strong. Even though she did not have any spiritual power, no one could ignore her aura. She was like a king. Sorcerer goddess, follow me. Wulon quickly stood up and walked in front to lead the way for Yun Jian. Just like that, the group of people went to the side courtyard in a grandiose manner. At this moment, in the side courtyard of the sorcerer tribe. It was a gloomy place surrounded by a bamboo forest. From time to time, the sound of birds chirping could be heard. In front of the side courtyard, a few well-dressed young men were holding 3 or 4 young girls from the sorcerer tribe and touching them. He, ha ha ha, run. Run, run again. Let's see where you can run to. Little beauty, just give in to me, ha ha ha. One of the most luxuriously dressed young men stopped a young witch dressed in black and began to grope her. Go away. Go away. Don't touch me. The young girl from the sorcerer tribe cried out in despair. Then, the young girl from the sorcerer tribe wanted to rush to the wall and protect her innocence with her death. Other than cultivating spiritual power, the people from the Yulong mainland had the same physical body as the people from Earth. They would die if they hit the wall. However, before the young girl from the sorcerer tribe could rush over, the chubby young man grabbed her hand and said, He, little beauty, I haven't had my fun yet. How can I let you die? The young man grabbed the young girl from the sorcerer tribe's hand and pushed her down, tearing her dress. Before the chubby hand could reach the young girl from the sorcerer tribe, the young man suddenly felt a strong force kick his waist. Then, the young man was sent flying by the strong force. Bam! The young man did not even have the chance to react before he was kicked far away by Yun Jian, who suddenly appeared. Ah! Pft! The young man was sent flying and spat out a mouthful of blood. The other young men from the Murong family who wanted to defile the pure young girl from the sorcerer tribe were stunned. They were all shocked by Yun Jian's appearance. Little beauty, who are you? One of the young masters was the first to react. When he saw Yun Jian's pretty face, he nearly drooled. The young man from the sorcerer tribe who was kicked by Yun Jian stood up in less than 2 seconds. Looking at Yun Jian's beautiful face, the young man's heart was itching. However, when he thought of Yun Jian's kick, he wanted revenge no matter what. Thus, the young man wiped the blood from his mouth and said angrily to Yun Jian, Where did this little beauty come from? How dare you kick me? I'll teach you a lesson. As he spoke, the young man gathered his spiritual power and attacked Yun Jian. Lan Su, Wu Lan, and the rest who were following behind were shocked when they saw this. Yun Jian did not have any spiritual power. The sorcerer god had just returned. How could she fight against the Murong family? However, just as the young man gathered his spiritual power, his fist was already in front of Yun Jian. Chapter 1177. The moment the young man gathered his spiritual energy and hurled it at Yun Jian with a spiritual energy that only existed in Yulong mainland, Yun Jian was stunned. Just when he was 3 meters away from Yun Jian, the spiritual power surrounding the young master suddenly disappeared. However, the young master's fist was already swinging towards Yun Jian, and he could not retract it. In the Yulong continent, spiritual power was the most important thing. As a citizen of the Yulong continent, they only had one more spiritual power than the people of Earth. In other aspects, the people of the Yulong continent were no different from the people of Earth. In other words, if the people of the Yulong continent suddenly lost their spiritual power, coupled with the fact that the people of the Yulong continent relied on their spiritual power and did not have much physical training, the people of the Yulong continent who lost their spiritual power were even weaker than the people of Earth. The young master looked strong because of his spiritual power. However, when he was less than 3 meters away from Yun Jian, his spiritual power suddenly disappeared. It was as if the young master had suddenly become an earthling without spiritual power. He was even weaker than the people of Earth in terms of physical strength. He was even weaker than the people of Earth. For such a person to be in the hands of Yun Jian, who was known for her decisiveness in killing, it was easier than killing an ant. Everyone present was dumbfounded. However, in the next second, they saw the young master being kicked by Yun Jian into a huge rock far away. His internal organs were smashed, and he died on the spot. Everyone was stunned by this scene. However, what shocked everyone was that Yun Jian's ruthless skills were only one of the reasons. The most important point was that there was only one person in the world who could make anyone from the Yulong continent lose all their spiritual power within 3 meters of them. That person, she was, Sorcerer Goddess. Sorcerer Goddess has returned. Sorcerer Goddess, please ensure the prosperity of the Sorcerer tribe forever. Sorcerer Goddess. Sorcerer Goddess. In an instant, the people from the Sorcerer tribe who came along all screamed. Their shouts shook the sky. Sorcerer Goddess had really returned. Because of Yun Jian's move just now, she was able to make anyone from the Yulong continent lose their spiritual power within 3 meters of her. This was the essence of the Sorcerer Goddess. The reason why the Sorcerer Goddess in her previous life was so strong was because of her unique physique. As for the second reason, it was because of her strong spiritual power. However, Yun Jian, who did not have spiritual power, was unrivaled in the Yulong continent. Of course, she could make anyone from the Yulong continent lose their spiritual power within 3 meters of her, turning them into an earthling like her. Based on this alone, Yun Jian was unrivaled in Yulong mainland. This was the Sorcerer Goddess of the Sorcerer tribe. She was the reason why she was strong. The Sorcerer tribe, the Sorcerer Goddess. At this moment, the young masters of the Murong family looked as if they had eaten dog poop. Who in the Sorcerer Goddess and the Sorcerer Goddess? In the Yulong continent, who did not know that the Sorcerer God had a physique that could make people within 3 meters lose all their spiritual power in an instant. However, the young lady in front of them was actually the Sorcerer Goddess. This was too inconceivable, wasn't it? However, just as the people present were beginning to accept this fact, Ce, who was standing beside Yun Jian, suddenly pulled Yun Jian into his arms. Seeing this, the people from the Sorcerer tribe widened their eyes. The Sorcerer Goddess had always been alone. Who was this man? How could he pull the Sorcerer Goddess into his arms? However, before the crowd could react, Ce stretched out his hand. He stretched out his hand and used a spiritual power that was enough to destroy the entire Yulong continent to grab the young masters of the Murong clan. In the next second, the young masters of the Murong clan were smashed into a river of blood by Ce's mental strength. A few living people, not even a single bone was left. They were crushed into blood on the spot by someone's mental power. The people from the Sorcerer tribe widened their eyes in fear. It was also at this moment that Ce, who was holding Yun Jian, broke into a smile. His mask was ordinary but it could not hide his radiance. In the next second, Ce looked at Yun Jian tenderly. His gaze was gentle as he spoke softly in the most pleasant voice in the world, uttering the most touching words. Xiao Jian, I'm willing to use the fall of the Murong clan as a betrothal gift to marry you. After that, a powerful marriage contract formation gathered beneath Ce and Yun Jian's feet to form a 5-star formation and opened up abruptly. It was a force stronger than the Sorcerer Goddess. Chapter 1178. What did Ce say just now? He said that he was willing to use the fall of the Murong family as a betrothal gift to marry Yun Jian. The first sentence was the main point, and the second sentence was also the main point. He actually had the ability to destroy the Murong family. This man actually had the ability to destroy the Murong family. Wu Lan and the surrounding elders were all dumbfounded. After thousands of years of development, the Murong family had flourished to a new level, but Ce actually said he wanted to use the fall of the Murong family as a betrothal gift to marry Yun Jian. He needed to have the ability to destroy the entire Yulong mainland to be able to do that. Unless he came from the gods' mainland. As for the second sentence, it was even more unbelievable. He actually wanted to marry the sorcerer goddess of the sorcerer tribe. This, the sorcerer goddess had found a spouse. The sorcerer goddess, who had been alone for thousands of years, had found a spouse. There was nothing more shocking than this. However, at this moment, no one was more shocked than Lan Su. Ce had a human skin mask on his face, but Lan Su knew that Ce was the Lord Immortal. The Lord Immortal was really going to marry the sorcerer goddess. Lan Su knew about the Lord Immortal. He was a supreme existence in the gods' mainland that controlled all the continents. It could be said that in the entire universe, no one was more powerful than the Lord Immortal. The exit from the Yulong mainland to Earth had been created by the Lord Immortal by tearing space apart. This was something that was impossible in the universe, but the Lord Immortal had done it. Under the crowd's gaze, the 5-star light array beneath Ce and Yunjian's feet grew bigger and bigger. This 5-star light array was the marriage contract array. Under the crowd's gaze, the 5-star light array grew bigger and bigger until its light enveloped the entire world. To be able to cause such a huge light during the marriage contract, it was enough to show that the two people who were going through the marriage contract were kings among men. The light completely enveloped Yunjian and Ce, and a loud explosion was heard. The people standing around widened their eyes in shock. Only the marriage of two extremely powerful people could create such a huge 5-star light array. The 5-star light array that Ce had triggered was probably the entire Yulong mainland. No. It had never appeared on any continent in the entire universe. Oh my God! Someone exclaimed. Ce and Yunjian's figures were completely enveloped by the 5-star light array. Adam and Mawson were also surprised. Lan Su was so shocked that she couldn't control herself. Could this man be from the gods' continent? Someone exclaimed in shock. To the people of the Yulong continent and other continents, the deity continent was the place where the gods lived. There was once a rumor that the sorcerer god came from the deity's continent, but this rumor had never been proven. At this moment, the radiance of the light array began to fade, and the two figures became clear. Above the two of them, 2 silver marriage contract rings condensed. After a while, the 2 silver marriage contract rings flew into Yunjian and Ce's hands. The dazzling light gradually disappeared. A human skin mask fell to the ground. Ce's mask had fallen off. At that moment, Ce's perfect and handsome face attracted everyone's attention. His face was cold, aloof, and deep, giving people the feeling that he was a king. At that moment, Wu Lan and the others immediately knelt down in front of Ce when they saw his face. Wu Lan and the others were even more shocked than when they saw Yunjian and the return of the sorcerer god. Wu Lan's eyes widened, and she was so scared that she fell to the ground and exclaimed to Ce, Lord Immortal. Chapter 1179. Auntie. Wu Qing was taken aback by her aunt's action. When she came back to her senses, she glanced at Ce's enraged face and felt a tinge of jealousy toward Yunjian, who was protected in his arms. This man was so handsome. So that ordinary face just now was fake. Wu Qing was shocked when she heard how Wu Lan addressed Ce. In the sorcerer tribe, the sorcerer god was the most commonly remembered name. But who didn't know about the Lord God? If the sorcerer god was a mythical figure, then the Lord God was like the gods in the modern world. He was an existence that was impossible to come into contact with. That was why Wu Qing only reacted after being stunned for a while. It was only then that Wu Qing and her friends knelt down in front of Ce. Lord God, you. As the leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Lan had always been a calm and steady person. But when she saw Ce, she completely lost control. God. The man who forced the sorcerer god to sign a marriage contract with her was the Lord God. The Lord God. Wulan had lived for so many years. She was lucky enough to see Ce at an anniversary ceremony 1,000 years ago. At that time, Ce, who was the Lord God, was personally welcomed by the most powerful king of the Yulon continent. Wulan trembled in fear when she recalled the scene. Even when the most authoritative king of the Yulon continent said something wrong, a protector by the Lord Divine Lord's side immediately crippled the most authoritative king of the Yulon continent on the spot. The king of the Yulon continent was replaced. At that time, this incident was considered a major event that shook the entire Yulon continent. The ruler of the Yulon continent was the king, and this king was chosen from a competition among all the strong people of the Yulon continent. He was the most powerful person in the Yulon continent. Of course, the sorcerer god was not interested in the competition for the throne of the Yulon continent. Otherwise, the king would not have been able to sit on the throne. However, even this king of the Yulon continent had to bow and scrape in front of the Lord Divine Lord. Even the previous king had been crippled by the Lord Divine Lord's protector just because he said one wrong thing in front of the Lord Divine Lord. At that time, Wulan was also present. She knelt below and clearly heard the reckless king say to the Divine Lord, the witch god of the sorcerer tribe. She did not attend the ceremony today. She definitely won't come. With just this one sentence, the Lord Divine Lord had directly ordered the protector beside him to cripple this king. At that time, Wulan found it strange as well. Why did the Lord God depose the king of the Yulon continent just because of this one sentence? But now it seemed that, Lord Divine Lord forcefully entered into a marriage contract with Lord Sorcerer God. Could it be that the Divine Lord had already taken a liking to the sorcerer god thousands of years ago? Thinking of this, Wulan almost jumped up from the ground. But back then, the Divine Lord and the sorcerer god had never even met alone. How could it be? Wulan looked at Yunjian and Ce with a complicated look in her eyes. She saw Ce gently lift Yunjian's small hand. Then, he gave a charming smile and opened his mouth in front of everyone, declaring his sovereignty without hesitation. Chapter 1180. After Ce finished speaking, his lips curled up slightly. He would only reveal such a gentle expression when he was looking at Yunjian. Seeing Ce like this, even Wulan's old bones trembled. She was obviously shocked by Ce's expression. The Sur-Immortal, who came from the deity continent and was extremely famous even in the deity continent, could actually smile at a woman. This was even more unbelievable than the flood in the Yulon continent. Yunjian had not spoken since the beginning, but her eyes were fixed on Ce with a hint of gentleness in them. It had to be said that Yunjian's heart had silently approved of this. Especially when she held the ring on her finger, her heart skipped a beat. A feeling that she had never felt before filled her heart. It was a warm feeling. Just as Wulan and the rest thought that Yunjian would say something, they heard Yunjian softly agree. Then, she blushed. The sorcerer goddess was blushing. The surrounding people all looked on in a daze, unable to react for a while. Even Mo Sen, who was standing at the side, could not help but sigh at this scene. His young master's actions were so fast. However, at this moment, Ce held Yunjian's small hand and turned to look at Wulan. His tall figure made people tremble just by looking at him. After a pause, just as Wulan knelt in front of Ce and was so frightened by Ce's aura that she did not dare to move, Ce's cold voice sounded, "Moron clan, lead the way." Hearing Ce's words, Wulan and the rest of the sorcerer tribe quickly understood. Was the Sur-Immortal going to stand up for the sorcerer tribe? The Moron clan was definitely done for this time. For thousands of years, the Murong clan had humiliated the innocent girls of the sorcerer tribe to the point that both humans and gods were furious. This time, the sorcerer goddess had returned. The Sur Immortal had also become the sorcerer goddess's man. The Murong clan was finished. Wulan quickly stood up and led the way like the wind, leading everyone to the Murong family. She could not wait to destroy the Murong family. The members of the shaman tribe hated the Murong family to the core. At this moment, in front of the main hall of the Murong family, there were many people sitting here. There were both men and women, but most of them were older. There were also a few younger ones. These young people were undoubtedly the hope of the Murong family's new generation. At that moment, an old man who appeared to be in his 40s was sitting at the very top of the Murong family. He was, without a doubt, the head of the Murong family, Murong Jing. At this moment, Murong Jing was sitting at the top, looking down at the group of people below. Where's Hua, Murong Jing asked solemnly as he turned to look at a young man with decent looks. Patriarch, him. He brought people to the shaman tribe. He said that he wanted to find a clean girl from the shaman tribe to have some fun with. The young man called laughed cruelly and spoke in an extremely lascivious manner. This person's name was Murong Yu. He often went to the shaman tribe to persecute poor girls. I told you not to go to the shaman tribe to cause trouble. You better take it easy in the future. If one day, the sorcerer goddess of the shaman tribe returns, When Murong Jing mentioned the sorcerer goddess of the shaman tribe, his voice trembled with fear. However, before Murong Jing could finish speaking, Murong Yu snatched the right to speak. Hey, Patriarch! Where did this sorcerer goddess come from? If the shaman tribe really had a sorcerer goddess, how could they have fallen to their current state? Those girls from the shaman tribe are really clean. TSK, I don't even want to get out of their bed. Murong Yu spoke even more impudently. Chapter 1181. Don't talk nonsense. The sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe has never lied. Murong Jing was obviously much more mature than Murong Yu. He frowned and said. Murong Jing had already existed when the sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe existed. However, at that time, Murong Jing was a person with no status at all. Therefore, he was not qualified to see the sorcerer god or the divine lord's true appearance. However, even if he had never seen the sorcerer god or the divine lord's true appearance, Murong Jing had heard a lot about them. The deeds of the sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe could be considered a legend. Therefore, Murong Jing was secretly afraid when he saw his juniors treat the sorcerer tribe members like this. If the sorcerer god came back one day and saw this, wouldn't the Murong family be finished? Oh, clan leader, what era is it now? What sorcerer god? I think it's just the sorcerer tribe's imagination. Besides, even if the sorcerer god comes back, what can she do? I don't believe that even if the sorcerer god comes back, with the sorcerer tribe's current ability, they will still obediently become our slaves. Murong Yu said confidently. As he spoke, he stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. He was already thinking about how to play with the girls of the sorcerer tribe. However, just as Murong Yu finished speaking, the door in front of the hall was suddenly kicked open by someone. Murong Jing's eyelids twitched. He was so scared that he sat up straight. However, at this moment, a slender figure stopped and entered. Then, a tall figure followed this slender figure into the hall. Behind them, many people dressed as sorcerer tribe members walked in. When Murong Jing saw this scene, his eyelids twitched and he couldn't help but stand up. When he saw Yun Jian and Ce, who were the first to enter, Murong Jing frowned. He had never seen the sorcerer god, let alone had the right to see the divine lord. Therefore, Murong-jing didn't recognize them at all. When he saw the clan leader of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Lan, who was standing behind Yunjian and Ce, Murong-jing stood up and walked over. Wu Lan, why did you bring a group of people and barge into the Murong family today? Murong-jing naturally had to show the imposing manner of a clan leader. Especially now, the Murong family was no longer the family with no status. The Murong clan was now one of the 4 aristocratic families of the Yulong continent. His status was different from before. Murong-jing's imposing voice made many of the Murong family members present feel respect for him. Their Murong family's patriarch was indeed different. Whether it was in terms of aura or strength, they were not to be underestimated. The Murong clan was indeed a dragon among men. As the Murong clan's influence grew, it wouldn't be long before they surpassed the number 1 family in the Yulong continent and truly became the number 1 family in the Yulong continent. At that time, they would completely turn the women of the shaman tribe into the Murong family slaves. Aside from being clean and pure, the women of the shaman tribe were all very beautiful. That was why the Murong tribe liked to attack the shaman tribe. However, just as Murong-jing was about to scold Wu Lan, another crisp female voice rang out, "That's right, Wu Lan. Why? Today, I will destroy the Murong family on behalf of the shaman tribe." Chapter 1182. Yunjian's words made Murong-jing's brows furrow tightly. Looking at the teenage girl in front of him, Murong-jing felt that this girl's aura was far above his own. Murong-jing's intuition told him that he couldn't afford to offend her. "You are?" Murong-jing frowned and asked softly. However, just as Murong-jing asked this question, Yunjian suddenly smiled. Before Yunjian could say anything, the sorcerer tribe standing behind her shouted excitedly, "Sorcerer God! Sorcerer God! Sorcerer God!" The sorcerer tribe members were extremely excited at this moment. All sorcerer tribe members hated the Murong family to the core. Even many of the sorcerer tribe women standing here had been violated by the Murong family members. Many of them had lost their virginity because of the Murong family's men. The sorcerer tribe members hated the Murong family so much that they couldn't bear it anymore. In the Yulong continent, the survival of the fittest, the strong were respected, and the weak were bullied. This philosophy was deeply rooted. At this moment, Murong-jing suddenly heard the sorcerer tribe members call Yunjian the sorcerer god. He was so scared that his entire body stiffened. Your master sorcerer goddess." Murong-jing pointed at Yunjian, unable to contain his shock. As for the group of people from the Murong family, they heard the sorcerer tribe members call Yunjian. A few of the younger generation didn't know the sorcerer god's ability back then, so at this moment, they all laughed loudly. Especially Murong-yu. His laughter was especially intense. "Ha ha ha. This girl is the sorcerer god. The legendary sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe. This is a joke, right? I thought the sorcerer god of the sorcerer tribe was an old woman. Did you sorcerer tribe members randomly find a beautiful girl to make up the numbers?" Murong-yu chuckled. At the same time, he looked at Yunjian with a lascivious gaze. Everyone present clearly saw the evilness that flashed through his eyes. Murong-yu was staring at Yunjian's ravishing face with a malicious gaze before he cackled and said, "That's right, Yunjian's pretty face. Little girl, you're so beautiful, do you want to follow me? I guarantee that you'll have a good time." Before he could say the word heaven, Murong-yu suddenly felt an invisible hand grab his throat and lift him up from the ground. Cough, cough, cough. Murong-yu was startled. He desperately stretched out his hand, trying to break free from the invisible palm. Not far away, Ce stretched out his hand and used his spiritual power to lift Murong-yu up from the ground. Do you think a piece of trash like you can covet my woman? Ce said coldly. As he spoke, a terrifying killing intent flashed across his eyes. Sorcerer God, Lord Divine Lord, please uphold justice for our sorcerer tribe. We'll return the humiliation that we've suffered for thousands of years to the Murong family. Wulan stood behind Ce. At the same time, she directly knelt down in front of Yunjian and Ce and shouted loudly. Everyone from the sorcerer tribe knelt down in front of Yunjian and Ce and shouted with all their might. Sorcerer God, Lord Divine Lord, please uphold justice for our sorcerer tribe. We'll return the humiliation that we've suffered for thousands of years to the Murong family. The sorcerer tribe members shouted with all their might. For a moment, their shouts could be said to have broken through the sky. In spite of it, be it Murong Yu who was choked by Ce's mental strength, Murong Jing, the head of the Murong family, or everyone else in the family, all of them were completely stupefied. God! Your Lord Divine Lord! Murong Jing looked at Ce and was so frightened that he knelt down on the spot. Chapter 1183. One was the Lord God, and the other was the Sorcerer God. No matter which one it was, they were all well known in the Yulong continent. There were even some children who were unwilling to cultivate spiritual power. Their parents would use such words to scare their children: if you don't want to cultivate spiritual power, fine. Children who don't cultivate spiritual power will be eaten by the Lord God and the Sorcerer God. The Lord God and the Sorcerer God had already become frightening existences in the entire Yulong continent. Because of their strength. Compared to the Sorcerer God, the Lord God was indeed from the Gods' continent. What was the Gods' continent? The Gods' continent was the place that directly controlled the life and death of all continents. There were also people who said that the Sorcerer God came from the gods because of his strength. Murong Jing had heard of this before, so he was afraid of the Sorcerer God whenever he heard the name. Because he had heard that the Sorcerer God had torn a god from the Gods' continent into two halves. The Gods' continent. It wasn't hard to imagine that the people from the Gods' continent were all gods. That was the place where people were immortal and indestructible. That was also the place where the gods lived. However, a god from the Gods' continent had been torn into two halves by the Sorcerer God with one hand and died on the spot. Killing a god with one hand. It was also from then on that the name of the Sorcerer God spread. That was why Murong Jing was so scared when he heard the name of the Sorcerer God. That was why the Sorcerer God had become a terrifying existence in the hearts of countless people in the Yulong continent. As for the Lord God, there were rumors that the Lord God was the ruler of the Gods' continent. There were also rumors that the Lord God was the son of the king of the Gods' continent. No matter which continent, the ruler was called the king. There were many legends about the Lord God. Since the existence of the Yulong continent, the Lord God had never come to the Yulong continent more than 3 times. To the Lord God, this was a person that only existed in fantasy. Therefore, when Murong Jing heard that Ce was Lord Deity, the shock he felt was undeniable. God! Lord God! Lord God, spare! Cough, spare my life! Murong Yu, who was suspended in the air by Ce's mind power, finally believed it. He had never felt such a powerful force. Such a powerful force was enough to destroy the entire Yulong continent. Murong Yu started to get scared, so he begged Ce for mercy. Do you think I'll let you off the hook for coveting my woman? Ce sneered. His handsome face attracted everyone's attention. No one had paid attention to Ce's words. Everyone was shocked by Ce's identity. Lord Divine Lord actually came here personally. Everyone present trembled in fear when they heard this. They didn't even think about what Ce had said. However, everyone present had clearly heard Siyi's words. My woman. Could it be, the sorcerer god? Lord Divine Monarch and Lord Sorcerer. It was then that Murong Jing's attention was drawn to the pair of silver rings on Yunjian and Siyi's fingers that were obviously a pair. You've signed a marriage contract. Murong Jing was so scared that his whole body twitched. Lord Divine Lord and Lord Sorcerer God were married. Then Lord Divine Lord was one of the sorcerer tribe. He thought about how the Murong family had dealt with the sorcerer tribe. Murong Jing suddenly fell to the ground as if he was paralyzed. The words that came out of his mouth made everyone in the Murong family fall into despair. Retribution. Retribution. The Murong family is doomed to be destroyed. Some of the younger generation were still unconvinced when they heard their clan leader say this. However, just as the younger generation was about to voice their dissatisfaction, Siyi grabbed Murong Yu's hand and squeezed it with his bare hand. Pfft! Murong Yu was lifted into the air and crushed. Not even his bones were left. He exploded into a river of blood in an instant. Ah! Seeing this bloody scene, the unconvinced younger generation of the Murong family were so scared that they all trembled and huddled together. Chapter 1184. Everyone present was shocked by the scene in front of them. Ce had actually crushed a living person so cruelly. Not even his bones were left behind. How powerful must he be to be able to do such a thing? He hadn't even gotten close to Murong Yu's body. He had crushed Murong Yu's entire body from a distance. Ah! Ah! Clan leader, save us! Clan leader, save us! The younger generation of the Murong family all gathered behind Murong Jing and desperately begged for help. They couldn't stop trembling. We were wrong. We won't dare to lay our hands on the sorcerer tribe anymore. Clan leader, please save us. Please save us. The younger generation of the Murong family were so frightened that they almost peed their pants. At this moment, they were all hiding behind Murong Jing and desperately begging for protection. When they had laid their hands on the innocent young girls of the sorcerer tribe, the younger generation of the Murong family had never shown mercy. A cruel murderous intent flashed in Yunjian's eyes. She had not come to the Yulong mainland for the sorcerer tribe. She had heard that the mysterious person behind the Inferno Ring had come from the Yulong mainland. However, when she saw the sorcerer tribe being humiliated by the Murong family at this moment, she had a sudden urge to wipe out the entire Murong family. It was as if her bottom line had been violated. Today, I will use the blood of the Murong family to wash away the humiliation that the sorcerer tribe has suffered for thousands of years. Yunjian said coldly. At the same time, she pulled out the indestructible butterfly knife that she had obtained from Satana. Once the scabbard was unsheathed, Yunjian swung the butterfly knife and easily pointed it at the Murong family members in front of her. Her cold eyes seemed to have a strange luster, causing the younger generation of the Murong family to tremble. They were so frightened that their bodies twitched for a while. In spite of it, it was not Yunjian's action that alarmed the Murong family. It was, when Murong Jing saw the knife in Yunjian's hand, his paralyzed body, which had been sitting on the ground, suddenly pulled himself together. That blade is the God-vanquishing blade. When Murong Jing saw the saber in Yunjian's hand, he was as scared as a pug and was filled with awe. How is this possible? This God-vanquishing blade. This God-vanquishing blade is only a legendary artifact. Rumor has it that the person who possesses it can kill the gods of the gods continent with his bare hands. Let's not talk about the Yulong continent. Even in the deity continent, the only one who can resist is probably the Lord Divine Lord. Murong Jing looked at the butterfly knife in Yunjian's hand and was so scared that his whole body twitched. After hearing Murong Jing's words, the people around them all turned pale with fright. Everyone in the Yulong continent had heard of the Godslayer blade because it was a legendary artifact. Those who possessed it could even kill gods from the gods' continent at will. Therefore, when they heard what Murong Jing said, they all straightened their bodies. The god-vanquishing blade was a legendary divine weapon. It was just like the legendary treasures of the immortals on earth. It was something that did not exist in this world. It was a legendary item. But today, it actually appeared. With Murong Jing as the leader, everyone from the Murong family and the witch tribe were stunned. Yun Jian was also a little shocked, but she never showed it on her face. She did not expect that the family heirloom of the Satana family was a divine weapon from the gods' continent. A divine weapon that could kill gods. Chapter 1185. Yun Jian did not notice the gentle look in Si Yi's eyes. She was holding the knife with her right hand and was in a daze. The god-vanquishing blade referred to the god-vanquishing blade of this butterfly knife. This was because the original knife was not a butterfly knife, but a dagger. It had turned into a butterfly knife because Satana had personally made this dagger into a butterfly knife. Yun Jian had initially thought that this knife was only handy and extremely sharp. Now, it seemed that this was not the case. God-vanquishing blade. Why did she feel like she had heard this name somewhere before? Then, Yun Jian's eyes flashed. She suddenly thought of Si Yi's actions just now. He did not lose his powers. He even forcefully activated the marriage contract array and forced her to sign a marriage contract with him. Yun Jian's face turned slightly red at the thought of this. However, she quickly regained her senses. She was about to ask Si Yi when she paused. After all, there were too many people here. Some things were not easy to ask. Furthermore, the Murong family members were still alive and well in this world. When Murong Jing saw the god-vanquishing blade in Yun Jian's hand, he felt even more hopeless. He thought about how the Murong family had committed crimes against the sorcerer tribe for thousands of years. Was it really going to fall today? Just as Murong Jing was thinking about this, Wu Lan and the rest of the sorcerer tribe were extremely excited. The sorcerer god had returned with glory. The glorious era of the sorcerer tribe was about to arrive. Sorcerer God, Sir Divine Lord, please uphold justice for the sorcerer tribe. We will return the humiliation that we have suffered for thousands of years to the Murong family. With Wu Lan as the leader, the rest of the sorcerer tribe looked at Yun Jian and Si Yi. They knelt down again and shouted in unison. The humiliation that the sorcerer tribe had suffered would be returned to the Murong family today. When Yun Jian heard the shouts of the sorcerer tribe behind her, she suddenly placed the blade of the butterfly knife in front of her. Then, her red lips curled into a red arc. She simply blurted out a word that would determine the fate of the Murong family: kill. With the Lord Shaman and Lord Divine Lord leading the battle between the shamans and the Murong clan was about to begin. After hearing Yun Jian's words, the sorcerer tribesmen who were kneeling behind Yun Jian and Si Yi all stood up and charged into the Murong family with an imposing manner. As for the Murong clan, they were at a disadvantage from the very beginning because their momentum was weaker. However, just as the battle began and Yun Jian was about to step forward, Si Yi pulled Yun Jian back with her left hand. At the same time, Si Yi stretched out her right hand. Just like that, a huge invisible force was formed. His outstretched palms suddenly clenched. In the next second, a horrifying scene took place. Everyone in the Murong family seemed to have been lifted up by someone's hand. Even the head of the Murong family, Murong Jing, was no exception. Everyone was lifted up into the air and grabbed by their throats. In the next second, a "pu" sound was heard. Everyone in the Murong family was lifted up into the air and Ce clenched his fist. In just an instant, the thousands of people in the Murong family were reduced to blood with a pu sound. Not even a single bone was left. Thousands of people were reduced to blood in an instant. Blood flowed like a river. The sorcerer tribesmen were stunned. While they were relieved that they were not from the Murong family, they could not help but panic at the power of the Lord Divine Lord. This was the dignity of a strong person. If he wanted to destroy an aristocratic family that had accumulated over thousands of years in the Yulong continent, he could do it with just a wave of his hand. Chapter 1186. Ce squeezed his hand, and used his spiritual power to tear everyone in the Murong clan into a river of blood. The Murong clan was instantly shrouded in a river of blood. Anyone who had seen this scene would never forget it. Mo Sen and Adam, who were standing on the side, hadn't spoken a word since a moment ago. However, Lan Su was excitedly grabbing Adam's hand at this moment. She didn't even realize that she was grabbing Adam's hand excitedly. She was so excited that she almost jumped up. She had waited for thousands of years. The great witch god had finally returned. The witch race had finally returned to its former glory days. There was a flower-like smile on Adam's face at this moment. Because a certain tender little hand was grabbing her tightly, and she hadn't noticed it yet. Adam felt that his young master was particularly cool at this moment. He had tried every means to get Lan Su close to him some time ago. But he hadn't been able to do so. As a result, Ce had destroyed the Murong clan with a wave of his hand. And Lan Su had been tightly grabbing his hand this time. This feeling made Adam feel very good. Cough, the smell of blood here is too strong. I'll go out for a walk. Mo Sen saw that Adam was grabbing Lan Su's tender hand in broad daylight. He almost choked. After coming back to his senses, Mo Sen said this, then turned around and left the place, heading outside. Ce had destroyed everyone in the Murong clan. Then, he pulled Yunjian's little hand and left. The people of the witch race didn't dare to say anything when they saw this. Moreover, Ce and Yunjian had already signed a marriage contract. So, they were already husband and wife. The people of the witch race would naturally deal with the aftermath of the Murong clan's annihilation. News always spread the fastest in the Yulong continent. The news that the Murong clan had been annihilated had spread throughout the Yulong continent in less than an hour. The head of the four big clans of the Yulong continent was the #1 aristocratic clan of the Yulong continent, the Huyan clan. The Huyan clan was the #1 aristocratic clan of the Yulong continent. The Huyan clan had been famous for thousands of years like the witch race. However, the difference between the Huyan clan and the Shaman clan was that the Huyan clan had always been a famous aristocratic clan since 1,000 years ago. In fact, it had never declined. Moreover, the status of the Huyan clan was second only to that of the Shaman clan 1,000 years ago. Back then, the sorcerer tribe was the #1 family in the Yulong continent. No aristocratic family could surpass him. Therefore, the Huyan clan had become the #1 aristocratic family of the Yulong continent after the sorcerer race had declined. An old man in his 50s was sitting on a chair at the top of the Huyan clan's main hall. He was holding a walking stick. Many juniors were seated beside him. This 50-something-year-old man was the patriarch of the Huyan clan. His name was Huyan Ba. Huyan Ba was sitting at the top. He was frowning as he listened to the news that had just come from not far away. After a moment of silence, Huyan Ba finally opened his mouth. With the dignity of a patriarch, he calmly said, "What did you say?" The Murong family was actually destroyed by the Shaman tribe. The person who was standing not too far away to deliver the news replied without hesitation, "That's right, the Murong family has been destroyed. I don't know where the shaman tribe got the ability to destroy the Murong family this time. The person remained silent for 2 seconds. Then, he continued to speak. There are rumors that the Lord Witch God of the shaman tribe has returned. The people of the Murong clan who knew that the Lord Witch God and the Lord God had returned had all died. Therefore, this person was only guessing at the moment. He didn't have any concrete evidence. Impossible. How can the Lord Witch God return? Murong Ba refuted this person in a decisive manner. Murong Ba didn't hold back since he had said this. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.